Okay, and it's 4:02-ish?
Yes. We are on the record.
Okay, the January 9th meeting of the Compliance and Amendments Committee of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force is in session. It's 4:02 p.m.
On the call of the roll, Highland, excuse. Member Moss.
Here.
Moss present. Chair Kanata.
Here.
Kanata present. Member Fiona Hinsey has been appointed as a member of the committee for today's meeting. Member Hinsey.
Here.
Hinsey present. We have a quorum. There are no agenda changes at this time. Next on the agenda, item number 2, approval of the November 14th, 2016 Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting minutes.
Does anybody have any issues with the minutes?
No, I don't. I will move to accept the minutes.
Second.
Okay.
Public comment.
Public comment on the minutes of the November 14th meeting? Seeing
none.
no public comment, do we need a roll call or?
On the motion to adopt the minutes, Member Hinsey.
Aye.
Hinsey, aye. Highland, excuse. Member Moss.
Aye.
Moss, aye. Chair Kanata.
Aye.
Kanata, aye. The motion passes. Next on the agenda, item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction but not on today's agenda.
Is there any public comment? Sure, go ahead.
Please come forward. Yes, nothing on the agenda.
You have to use the microphone. Okay. And this is for items that are not on the agenda. Okay.
My name is Ellen Sang. I would like to bring to your attention the departments when they provide responses, and then they highlight in very dark blue. Victor, can you send this? You can see, now you can see it clearly. When you print it, I have a hard time to even read them. And then you can see that if you print it out, you hardly can read them. See, this is I hope that you can ask the department in the future. When they want to highlight something, they should be in a lighter color so that the complainant and the public can read them legibly. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Hi, my name is Tom Borden. I'm with the SF Forest Alliance, and I submitted a complaint against the planning department concerning the way they ran a joint commission hearing with Rec Park and planning on an EIR certification and then followed by adoption. And hopefully there will be more on this in the future. I just got the notice that the complaint was sent back out to planning today. But I wanted to say I think this is a systematic abuse of basically a way of reducing public's input to these kinds of decisions. What happened at this particular hearing, this was on the Natural Areas Program plan within Rec and Park. And so the Planning Commission was meeting to decide whether or not to certify the EIR, which is a technical decision. Is the EIR adequate, accurate? Does it have the right technical information? And then that was followed by a Rec Park Commission decision whether or not to adopt the plan that the EIR was studying. And in fact, what happened? So at that meeting, we had two commissions making two totally different decisions based on two totally different sets of information. And yet what happened, the way that meeting was structured, all of the public testimony, any testimony, was just all mixed together at random. And for instance, I was spending my time to speak against certification of the EIR and giving reasons why it shouldn't be certified. But my thing was mixed in with people who were saying whether or not they wanted the Natural Areas Program to be adopted by the Rec Park Commission, which was the bulk of the testimony. So what it did was it totally watered down any real discussion of the technical merits of the EIR. And on top of that, I was only allowed to testify once, even though there were two totally different decisions based on two different sets of information that were being made. So, and I believe the Planning Commission, this is a common practice for them. And so it's a bigger issue than just my issue. So I'm hoping that we can have some good discussion on that coming up. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Dee Seligman. I'm also with the San Francisco Forest Alliance, and I'd like to further extend some of Mr. Borden's comments. We did know in advance that the Planning Commission and the Rec and Park Commission at that particular meeting decided to take two substantively different issues that are under two entirely different jurisdictions with two different types of information that was going to be presented to them and mush it together into topic 1A and 1B. We knew that in advance. There was nothing that we seemed to be able to do about it. I did consult with one of the city attorneys, and I was told that generally, if there are two different jurisdictions and two different topics, they should be covered as two different topics. But the city attorney wouldn't give any kind of legal opinion, didn't have enough information. The public comments were completely different because some were addressed to the issues around the EIR of objectivity, adequacy, and accuracy, while others were really being addressed to which among the alternatives, including the project that was being proposed by the management plan, which of those would be adopted. It's not; these questions are not, by the way, answered in the Guide to Good Government. I looked. What I'm concerned about is we were not able to speak before each item was voted on the way we should be able to speak to that issue before a vote is taken. Instead, there was about 5 to 6 hours of testimony, and then the Planning Commission voted, and then the Rec and Park Commission voted. End of story. So that seems to me to have stifled public comment with requiring that people only had one comment that they could make, albeit it was for three minutes. The other concern I have is that there were many, many city employees from the Parks Department and the Department of Public Works who were present in their safety vests. They were grouped together. They were represented by a union official. I wonder, were those people on city time or were they on their own time? I would suspect that they were on city time. And I also wonder, were they offered any incentives or any motivations or any threats in order to all show up on a particularly wet Thursday afternoon and be there for 5 to 6 hours? That's very curious to me, and I'd like the Sunshine Task Force to shed some sunshine on that question. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed.
Next on the agenda, item number 4, file number 16103, report, use of automatic out-of-office email responses and its effect on public records request.
Afternoon, David German. I'm Policy Manager for the Department of Technology. I've prepared some information in response to the questions that I received via email. If you'd like me to read them off, I can do that, or I can answer your questions directly.
I mean, I think read them. If you've got them all ready to read out, let's do it.
Okay.
Will you also have a copy for us as well?
I do not. I'm sorry. I can forward it after I'm done, though.
Oh, yeah, please do. Thank you.
Okay. So first, some background about the city email system. It is a hosted on-the-cloud email system. The purpose is that all the city systems departments, commissions, board of soups use one email system. But Department of Technology does not control the email at the department level. There is, in every department, there is an email coordinator or a public information officer who is charged with responding to sunshine requests. So we don't actively control the response to the requests themselves. We obviously respond to our own requests. Okay, so the questions that I received were, does the city keep a record of when and whom automatic out-of-office mails are sent? No, there is no record kept of that at all. Is there guidance for what information should be provided in an out-of-office email? For example, contact details for an individual handling records or requests. The Good Government Guide is very explicit on the rules of responding to sunshine requests. In our own department, our Public Information Officer, Kathleen Clark, has a set of forms, which I will again send to the committee, that very clearly detail out how we respond. Other departments have similar types, but toward the end of answering these questions, I will explain what we're going to do about helping the other departments. Next question. Bear with my croaky voice. I have that flu that everybody seems to have. Is it possible to create filters for emails, including the text immediate disclosure request, to ensure that the requester receives a response within 24 hours? Any emails with the words immediately disclosure request or public records request being forwarded to a central location for immediate processing? The trouble with that is that's an unreliable way of doing it. It still is going to get missed. The more foolproof way is if I was the PIO for a department and I was going away on vacation, for example, we have a clear delegation to the next person. So again, in our out of office, it would say David German is out of the office. While he is out, I'll use the CIO as an example, Ken Bukowski will respond to sunshine requests.
Can I just interrupt real quickly? Because I have a question on that.
Yeah.
A lot of the issues that come up before the full task force is that the department will say that the out of office was in effect, whereas the complainant will say they never got an out of office. So I understand there are standards for, I'm Frank Canott, I'm out of the office, please contact so-and-so. Is the system set up to also have just a forwarding? So if the out of office pops up, not only do I get that message, but internal to the system, it's forwarded to that person whoever is supposed to be taking care of the issues while I'm gone.
Let me repeat that back to make sure I understand it too. So I am the person who is supposed to be in charge of sunshine requests. And I put an out of office up and I go off on my vacation. And the request comes in to me. And immediately, and you're the person requesting. So immediately you get an out of office saying, David German's out, Ken Bukowski is going to respond. I get an email for that request also, yes.
Ken gets the email also?
No, I get the...
I'm asking if the system is, if it's possible within the system to also forward my email to Ken, to the person who's covering.
Yes, it is possible to do that.
Okay.
It is possible to do that.
Because that, to me, seems to be one way at least to go forward with this and have all the departments be able to do that.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, when I get to what we're proposing to do, you might like even better.
Okay, great.
Okay. So how common is it for departments to have a central email address for receiving records requests? We don't know. Many departments do that. Some specifically just have their PIO as the point of contact. Is there a way for a department to print out a log on who responds and sends to and when? There is a feature to do that in O365, but those records only last for 90 days. So it's not a very reliable way to handle that thing. Okay, and then can messages with certain keywords be forwarded as to backups? I think that's really your question. And so the answer is yes to that, okay? But it's not the most reliable, but we can do it that way. Okay.
Well, my question, I wouldn't suggest doing it off of keywords. I would just suggest sending them all.
Okay. So what has started as a consequence of this request today, our PIO is part of a group of the citywide PIOs, and I'm the policy manager for the department. So when all else fails in government, do a policy. So we are working on one right now where the wording essentially starts with anyone responsible for managing and responding to public records requests, including sunshine requests, are required to respond. This may sound familiar because it's out right now. within 24 hours to 10 days of receipt, depending on the request type. If the individual is out of the office when the record is received, they must provide an out-of-office message with contact information for an alternate contact within the department who can be responsible for managing and responding to the request on behalf of the departments. That has gone to the PIOs, and there's now this discussion going on about being consistent across the city on responding to sunshine. And so we are working on this. Again, we cannot dictate what the departments do, but it is really in everybody's interest to act consistently with this. So I can provide you with what I've typed up here when this proceeds along to where there would be a policy with DT first in terms of how people are supposed to respond within the departments. I can also forward that to the committee also.
Yeah, so, I'm not sure that having a policy that says that really fully solves the problem. So we're dealing with an evidentiary problem.
Right.
Somebody comes in, they said they filed it, the other person said we were away, and I sent you an away message that told you who else to contact, and the first person says, I never got that message, and the person who said they sent it doesn't have a record of it. How do we solve that?
Hold on one second. I have Chad Bradford from our technical department. Is there a way to answer that question?
Yeah, so my name's Chad Bradford. I support the city's email system. I think the challenge with that approach is that when you have an out-of-office message that goes to a user, there are some limited capabilities to track it. The problem is there's no way for us, here at the city to really confirm the end user outside the city received the message. The message could have gone to their junk folder. Maybe they're on a system that doesn't deliver junk, those kinds of messages. So there's absolutely no way that we can guarantee an out-of-office message is going to be delivered. So from a technical standpoint, that's not going to hold up in a court of law.
So, through the chair. So I think that part of the problem is that even the person who sent it doesn't have a copy. That's what they told us in the past, if I'm not mistaken.
That the person who sends it doesn't have it on their own.
Yeah,
The send box doesn't have a record of it.
That might be correct. I'd have to double check to verify. Like I said, even if they did, that's still no guarantee that the recipient received a copy. I, as an email administrator, I could look in the logs and I can see, okay, yes, you did send this message, subject line out of office. But again, just because our system sent it doesn't mean the recipient actually received it. Doesn't mean that it didn't go to their junk folder. Doesn't mean that it didn't get blocked.
So that's why the question I asked before. Let's use the example. I send in a sunshine request. The person I send it to is out of the office. There is an out-of-office setup, but I never get it. But if that out of office is set up and also forwards it to someone else, the email that I sent to someone else, at least somebody in that office who's responsible for providing sunshine data will have it. And then even if I get the out of office could say, the person I sent it to is out of the office, contact the person responsible right now is so-and-so. This email has been forwarded to them. You can contact them at least it will at least let us know. The fact that there's the capability of forwarding my email that goes to an out-of-office email to someone else, from a complainant's point of view, that puts the onus back to the department saying, you received this. So that's how I'm looking at it. And also, I would think, is there the same capability with the voice messages? If I leave a voice message, if I call someone, and leave a voice message, and that person picks up and says, I'm out of the office, is there a way to automatically ring the person who is backing up?
Okay, so 2 questions that you had. And I'll give you a slightly different answer to the first one. Your questions have got us as the email people for the city questioning what is better ways to do this. And editorially, I would say to you also that perhaps the best way is to simply have a sunshine box. And then it doesn't matter if somebody is out of the office. That you have people who are designated to check the box, and the mail is always going into the box. Okay?
So in that regard, I mean, would you have it set up that it changes when somebody's out of the office, or that two people are always getting every sunshine request?
Like, let's say like DT sunshine request at sfgov.org, that our PIO would be responsible for checking it when she's in the office, but if she's on vacation, she designates somebody else. But the mail is always going to the same box,
It would just be a central address that
right? So,
various employees might
Right.
check.
yeah.
Per department.
Yeah, now, again, I can't speak for what the other departments will do, but this is a discussion that the PIOs and the email administrators can have to see if it makes sense to do and might resolve the problem.
So I just want to make sure I understand something. So when I have an autoresponder through the city, it doesn't save a copy of what was sent out in my sent folder.
I'm sorry, say that again.
So if I have an autoresponder, I don't have a copy in my sent box of everything that went out when I was away.
You don't get copies.
No.
Why is that?
Okay.
Ask Microsoft.
Yeah, sorry, we'll have to have, that's, I don't know. We'll have to ask Microsoft.
Okay, so and when somebody sets it, so because it's a cloud service, they're able to set that on their whatever their interface is. It's not like they're using Thunderbird and then they have to log into a different site to set an out-of-way.
Yeah, okay, and then to answer your telephony question, didn't know you were going to ask that question. I'll have to get back to you on that one. I don't know because there are different phone systems throughout the city now. There's traditional old ones and VoIP ones being installed.
Okay.
I think that so I like this policy and I like the idea of getting everyone uniform, but I think that the one problem that we're just going to continue to have, and I would really like to figure out a solution to it, is when we're hearing a case and we are presented with evidence and it all hinges on whether a away message was sent. Not so much received. Like, there's a lot of reasons somebody's email might be misconfigured, and that's not on the city if somebody has their email misconfigured or they have too bad a spam blocker. People should check their spam folders. Like, certainly the city should make efforts to try to not end up in your spam folders, but for our purposes, there just needs to be, if a city employee is going to end up saying, we were not late to your request because we sent you an out-of-office response of who to contact, and had you contacted that person, you would have got your records on time. And if we don't have proof of that, then it's very hard for us to, go on the favor of the city just because we don't have the proof of what the city is saying.
Correct, I understand.
So
it appears as though this might be a question for Microsoft on how we can make this work.
But it does sound, though, if each department had a central Sunshine email address, then the people responsible for responding to Sunshine are responsible for checking, whether it's one person, two persons, first person's away, the second person has to do it.
Correct.
That at least would seem to solve the issue of if it was received and should it have been responded to by, X
Yeah.
period of time.
Right.
Does Microsoft have a log of when people turned on their autoresponder and turned it off? Like, is that something that exists or could exist?
Could you use the mic,
Yeah.
please? Thank you.
Yeah, probably an administrator from DT would be able to look through the logs to see if out-of-office message was turned off or on. But again, that log file, I think, lasts for maybe 180 days, so it's not permanent.
So in the event that we had somebody, say, come into this committee, which is kind of a pre-hearing committee for some of these, and this issue came up, and it was within that 100 days, you said, we could say, go see the department, we urge you to go see the Department of Technology and get proof of that an autoresponder was on during this period of time, that somebody was on vacation.
Okay.
Wait, would they go
What's
to
that?
us or would they go to the
That's-
department?
That's a suggestion. we can
You'd be
make.
better off going to DT, probably, because we have the expertise to be able to get that data.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, so are you saying that's the thing?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, we could probably ask for that too.
Yeah.
We could probably just send a memo to DT
Yeah.
asking for it. Would that be okay as well if we were to
Yes.
contact you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said 100 days is how long that log is kept.
Yeah, you would contact our service desk, and it would be like a partnership between our service desk and our security division about that.
Great. Any other questions from this?
Mr. Chairman, from discussion, I believe the one point that was missed is that any employee in the city and county can receive a sunshine request. It does not necessarily go to a central location. Usually, my department handles it by sending it to our person or forwarding the email, and that is one issue that needs to be looked at.
Okay,
Right,
so,
okay, right.
well, then that log sounds like
The log.
like some sort of short-term
That,
solution.
and/or the capability of if I'm just an employee, don't normally get sunshine requests, but if somebody sends me an email and I'm out of the office, again, I'd have an out of office on, but having incoming emails being forwarded to my backup. Also, if that were a policy that departments adhered to, at least that email would have a chance to be seen.
Well, can you set an autoresponder up so that it always CCs somebody else when it responds?
I believe so. Can you
Without-
answer that one?
Like,
You'd have to set up like a mailbox rule, so you could say that every message you've received, CC a copy to someone else.
So in theory, you could say like any message that has public records request and it could be CC'd to someone else by rule.
I do want to point out what's the count now. There's about 25,000 city employees. To establish a rule like this, broadcast train the staff is going to be problematic at best to make this work every single day.
Yep.
and earlier you had said that filtering by keywords is unreliable. Could you expound on that a little?
Yeah, your turn.
Well, I think the biggest challenge when you're filtering on keywords is you have to know exactly what the person is sending. You have to predict every keyword or word they're going to use in order to be able to have a rule that catches it. And so that means you'd have to expect the public to always use a certain phrase every time they messaged you. I think that's going to be probably the biggest obstacle to using keyword forwards.
Well, the good news about that is that if it's an immediate disclosure request, it has to include the words immediate disclosure request, and otherwise the respondent has a much longer period of time with which to respond. So if it is possible to do something with immediate disclosure request, then that might actually be a pretty big solution if it could identify that.
Okay. I think the coverall, and again, we probably need to pursue this the strongest, is the central mailbox where somebody is always seeing them. I think that will just cover all the problems we're having.
Well, all except for the fact that if an employee who doesn't deal with sunshine gets a request. But at least it would cover a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
But I mean, anybody's out of office response, if it says if this is a sunshine request, email to the central box, then that would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that might be something, because
Right.
we have had a few cases where two people were out of the office and one got bounced to the other, and that didn't result in it getting responded to. Okay, I don't have any further questions, Chairman.
No, I don't have any.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very
you.
much.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you're up for the next
Okay.
one, too. Public comment on this issue?
Hi, I'm going to ask you before I get started if this comment is appropriate, but David started out talking about I'm not my brother's keeper. In other words, technology department isn't responsible for other departments' information, and I'd like to speak to that if I may. Okay, the issue is that a lot of people, when you put in a sunshine request, they claim they don't have any relevant emails, and they claim they trash every email the minute they get it, and that's why they don't have emails. And I've tried to submit a sunshine request to the Department of Technology asking for emails from another department, and I got nothing. I got stiffed. But I think it's key, because if you're looking for information, and just because someone claims they deleted it, maybe they did delete it, maybe they didn't, but you're not getting it from the department you requested. If that exists on backup files in the Department of Technology, that should be accessible. I mean, that's the whole point of this business here, is that we can get the information that we're looking for and, not allow loopholes for people to hide that information. So it would really improve what people are doing if they knew that they couldn't just claim they didn't have relevant information or actually delete emails that are surprising that they deleted. So, I mean, I think that's an issue that needs to be addressed. And I know in some cases, I've heard of some, like Michael Petrola's complaints or something, that some emails were actually recovered from the Department of Technology, but I haven't had any success. It would be nice if there was a consistent policy that you knew what you could actually get from that department. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment?
Hi, I'm Caroline Celaya from the SFMTA Manager for Public Records. We just wanted to go on record and advise you of how we handle out-of-office notices. We do have one centralized email address for all public records requests, and that's managed by myself and a backup person continuously. If that person isn't there, there's a third person to manage it. So we never have to turn on any out-of-office notices for that email address. As was stated earlier, there are times when a request will be sent to a staff person. If that staff person isn't there, they certainly should have somebody who would handle their emails or any request, so that the person who sends a request to them can see who the next in line is to handle the request. And all staff is aware that they should be sending them to the SFMTA Sunshine Requests at SFMTA email address. We've trained staff at least twice a year for new people coming in to make sure that everybody is aware of this email address. The only time this actually doesn't work is, again, when a person just chooses not to use it. We do have some people that prefer to send directly to staff, and that's certainly their choice. They can do so. It may fall through the cracks if that person hasn't turned on their out-of-office email. But other than that, our system does indeed work, and we do receive about 500 to 600 a year. And we like our system, and it works. Thanks.
Any other public comment? Seeing none. Next item, please.
May I ask, in terms of an action, we have several options and multiple actions if possible. Sure. You can continue this matter to the call of the chair in case that you want to update in the future. In terms of reporting to the task force, I can add to the task force agenda with the consent of the chair a report from committee regarding the subject matter, if you would like to provide a summary to the full task force regarding what we heard today.
I think.
We should, yeah. We should.
Yeah, I think we should provide a summary to the task force, and when this policy is ready, I think maybe we could.
Have them come back.
Yeah, have them come back. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's something.
Mr. German, if you can let us know when things change, I will keep the task force updated. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
On the motion to send this to the full task force and to continue the matter to the call chair, on that motion, Member Hinsey.
Aye.
Hinsey, aye. Highland excused. Member Moss.
Aye.
Moss, aye. Chair Kanata.
Aye.
Kanata, aye. The motion passes. I will work with the chair to schedule this before the full task force.
Yeah, it will. I won't be here for the next task force meeting, so it'll need to be that one unless you guys wanted a summary.
That's no problem. I will work with the chair to schedule that for the March meeting. Next on the agenda, item number 5, file number 16081, report, City and County of San Francisco compliance with Senate Bill 272, amendments to the California Public Records Act regarding open source database and summaries and requirements for online maintenance.
Hi, good afternoon, you all. If you don't mind, I actually provided a slide deck that I would love to present to you all. I think it'll make it easier to tell the story, and then, of course, can go into the detailed questions. Does that work for you all?
Great.
Sure.
You can just minimize that one. I need that one for later.
Victor? Victor,
Yes.
can you?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Joy Bonaguro. I'm the city's Chief Data Officer, and I'm short, so let me just adjust this a little bit. So I'm just going to walk you through Data SF, our inventory odyssey, and just give you an overview of how we went about this. It's a bit broader than the actual SB 272. So just to give you a little bit of context, Data SF, our mission is to empower use of the city's data, and we do many things. Here's our website, which you're more than welcome to visit. But our main product is the city's open data portal, SF Open Data. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to visit it, but basically you can search for city data sets by topic area or department, and you can sort of think of it as spreadsheets on the web that you can download in multiple formats. It's also available through application programming interfaces, so the idea is to make the city's data machine readable and as broadly accessible as possible. And of course, we provide a support center for helping people assist and use the city's data effectively. So history of SB 272. So just to give you all a little bit of background, and you'll start to understand why this background is important momentarily. When it was introduced, 2 years ago, it included this, in implementing this chapter, each local agency shall conduct an inventory of data gathered by the agency. If you look at the final version that was chaptered, it called for each local agencies, except local educational agencies, to create a catalog of enterprise systems. This was a pretty significant change that happened over the life course of this bill, and it's important because it'll give you a sense of how we're complying versus what the bill calls for. So basically, to summarize, they went from requiring a detailed data set inventory to a systems inventory. And they defined that enterprise system as a software, application, or computer system that collects, stores, exchanges, and analyzes information that the agency uses that is both of the following: a multi-departmental system, or a system that contains information collected about the public, and B, a system of record. They also listed several exemptions. So this actually greatly narrowed the scope of the original legislation. Meanwhile, we were wrapping up a local requirement, and this is where it gets interesting. So San Francisco Administrative Code Chapter 22D requires a data set inventory. Each department shall publish on Data SF a catalog of their department's data that can be made public. So if you overlay the timeframes of the two requirements, in 2013, San Francisco passed its data inventory requirement. They then hired me in February of 2014, and we started our data inventory, which, just as an aside, there was unprecedented. No other jurisdiction at that time had done a data inventory. And then we see when the bill was introduced, approximately a year later after I was hired, we published shortly after that, and then the state bill was chaptered in October of 2015. And then we published our system inventory that complies with SB 272 in July when it was due. So how we approached our data set inventory. We approached it in 3 steps. The first step was to identify data sources, and then identify data sets, and then complete the data set catalog. So all the departments were asked to do this. So in the course of creating a data set inventory, which was much more detailed than an enterprise inventory, we accidentally created an enterprise inventory. We didn't mean to do that, but we happened to do it along the way. And we had broken this down into steps because the idea of inventorying all of your data is a pretty overwhelming thing, and so we had broken it into these steps. So we were well positioned, essentially, to deal with the statewide compliance piece, just by virtue of the process we had gone through. And just to give you a sense, is an enterprise system or any system contain one or more or many data sets. It could be a one-to-one relationship. There could be 2 or more data sets, but then there's some departments that have very complex enterprise systems that generate many, many data sets. In the course of doing this, we provided extensive support to what are called data coordinators or liaisons in each of the 52 departments. As you can see, we have both a portal on it, and then I gave just a screenshot. We have a bunch of resources. We did live trainings. We did webinars, all sorts of things that you're welcome to browse. It's all available online, including the data inventory. So if you go to SF Open Data, you can search for our inventory and find it. On the right-hand side, we have this little Explorer tool that allows you to play with it. Planning has the most data sets. And on this, you're not supposed to be able to read this, just to know that there's a lot of additional data at the data set level. So lots of metadata about the individual data sets, so this goes beyond the system's inventory. A little bit more history. So when this state bill chapter came out, there was a little bit of a freak out across the city because people were like, oh my gosh, how are we going to comply? And actually, if you talked with jurisdictions around the state, a lot of people were quite nervous about complying with this, as there was little to no guidance out there. And there were no existing practices to leverage, except actually San Francisco's practice in doing our data set inventory. And then, of course, for a city and county of our size, you're talking literally hundreds of systems. So we actually volunteered to manage this. Instead of starting a separate process, we're like, you know what? We annually update our data set inventory. Let's use that existing process. Let's not layer on an additional process. It would have been really confusing for folks. And so we update in the spring. So we essentially leveraged our annual data set inventory process to generate and refine the system's inventory. Which, of course, is also available online on SF Open Data in compliance with the state law. So I want to go back to that definition of enterprise system, that SB 272. So in their scope, they mention multi-departmental system or a system that contains information collected about the public. This actually narrows the scope quite a bit when you start thinking about it. And by the way, what is a multi-departmental system? They don't define that. They don't say anything. Our inventory includes all of those. But here's the guidance we issued to departments about what was a data source. We called it a data source at the time. And so ours was very, very inclusive. And again, this is online. It's available in our data coordinator guidebooks. But it was very broad. It was essentially, what are your authoritative data sources? It didn't have this sort of constraint of the SB 272. So ours, essentially, the scope of Data SF's inventory includes both the single department systems as well as any additional authoritative data sources, regardless of what they're managed in. Like we said, if you manage a program in Excel, that's an authoritative data source. Include that. It doesn't need to be some fancy enterprise system. And if you go to the Electronic Frontier Foundation, about a month after it was due, Electronic Frontier Foundation, sorry, it's a complicated word. They actually did this great database hunt after about a month after compliance was required, where they asked folks to find all the databases out there that you can, because they're sort of at individual agency locations. And their comment, I thought it was worth bringing out this quote, so far there's little consistency between local agencies publishing these sets. For example, the city of Manhattan Beach provides its inventory of 13 enterprise systems as a PDF file, not very friendly. Meanwhile, the city and county of San Francisco offers a robust inventory of 451 data systems that can be filtered, searched, sorted, and exported in multiple formats. And of course, if you go to different counties, you can see that implementation varies. This is Alameda. They didn't do very much. If you look in San Diego, they did interesting things like they describe their data categories as public confidential. They didn't actually describe the data. LA County, if you go to their website for business purpose and data, again, they use like standard drop-down menus of what it meant. So basically, to summarize, great variability in terms of implementation in the absence of statewide guidance. So to conclude, it was a major effort with little guidance or help. We already had a robust data set inventory in our annual update process, and we volunteered to manage that process. We've published the data in an accessible way. Most of the jurisdictions are posting their inventories as PDF files, which is not a very friendly way to consume data. And then our system scope is, as I mentioned, much, much more inclusive and expansive. And then our combination of system plus data set inventory is a much more comprehensive overview of the scope of the city's data. So that's the end of my prepared remarks, and I'm happy to answer the questions. I can just march through them. I tried to address them in general, but happy to go into greater detail about the questions, which I have printed here.
Sure. I mean, I think that does address most of my questions. It's fun. I actually was the one that you put up my thing from EFF on the screen. Anyhow, so the one thing that when I was looking at the San Francisco's ordinance is that, I mean, San Francisco's open data SB 272 inventory is that brief statement of purpose and general description of data is listed as one field. And in a lot of cases, there's not a lot of information to satisfy either of those requirements. But then you showed me a page that had a lot more information about individual data sets. What's the difference between those? Why is there so much information in the one that you showed on the screen versus what actually appears in the inventory?
The screen that from our website?
No, on your slideshow. You were showing a slide and you were showing the sort of metadata for a particular.
Oh, yeah.
Like that one forward, yeah.
So this is the data set inventory. So there's literally two inventories. There's the system inventory, and then there's the data set inventory. And those are related. But you can think of like the data set inventory as something that explodes the details within the systems. So the data set inventory is what's the local requirement, the system inventory, which of course is a broader scope than the SB 272, but that's what it satisfies. So we already had that data set inventory, and we basically had the skeleton of the SB 272 going into it, and so we leveraged that existing work. And given the intent of the original introduction, I think they were actually trying to get, I don't know this for sure, but I believe what they were trying to do is get other jurisdictions to do what we did with our data set inventory. And I think most people are like, that's too much. And so they backed off into the enterprise. And so the thought was between these two things, we're actually providing a great more detail than what's required.
So one of the reasons I brought this up in committee is that, you know, the Sunshine Task Force is responsible for hearing complaints about the Sunshine Ordinance, but also about the California Public Records Act. And this is now in the California Public Records Act. And I foresee probably in the not too long future for us to start getting complaints about these. And I'm just trying to figure out, because we don't have any guidance on this either, on what, you know, we're going to have to make decisions on whether somebody's in compliance or not. And so, you know, I see it does trouble me a little bit that those are combined into one category, especially when, like, I look at, like, I don't know, the Public Health's Orthopedics database, where it says the brief statement of purpose and general description of data is orthopedics, which I'm sure it is not like actual, like, you know, or orthopedic souls in a database. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine somebody, you know, filing complaint after complaint after complaint with us, because when something says electronic billing system, okay, well, that does explain the statement of purpose, but it doesn't provide a description of the data. So I guess I want to know, like, you know, in the guidelines that because you guys are handing out suggestions or guidelines to departments on this, what the sort of instructions are for that particular field.
Sure. What our instructions are, we essentially give them, we do an in-person training where we work with the data coordinators and we say, okay, here's the template, here's how to complete it. And we also, in that template, we provide what we call model answers. Like, we work with one or two especially diligent departments to come up with model answers, and we say, this is a good answer, it should answer like that. We can't force them to give comprehensive answers, but we certainly encourage it with our model templates and the instructions that we give through our training materials and all of that. On that note, I think it's worth pointing out, if you do spot checking of the various inventories across the state, we have one additional column that is not required, which is the name. You'll note that the name essentially functions as the purpose across most of the other jurisdictional examples of their SB 272. So, I mean, what we'll do in our next inventory update, which our inventory update starts in, it'll start in the next couple months, we'll reiterate these are good answers. A lot of you did just single responses. You should be aware that the Sunshine Task Force might receive complaints because these aren't very, look at this department who completed it like this. Yours doesn't look like that. But what we do in order to encourage quality answers is model good behavior, highlight empty things, and when possible, use drop downs to make it easier and more consistent completion.
Okay. If there ever the opportunity comes up to split that one into two different fields, I think that would be a lot easier, especially in comparing it to other cities' data sets. Because a lot of the other ones seem to have it split into separate fields. One other question I had is, in the event that people start filing complaints over this, are they going to be filing complaints? I mean, I imagine they're going to end up filing complaints against SF Open Data as the administrator of the inventory versus the individual departments. Is it safe to say that SF Open Data is the maintainer of SB 272 compliance, or?
I would say we manage the process and we publish the resulting data set. In terms of any questions that would come to us through our support portal, we would essentially refer them to that agency. So when people, we triage through our help desk so we can make sure they're getting to the people who are best positioned to respond to that question.
I think that maybe when this comes up before the task force, that maybe we should figure out how to, when a complaint comes in on this, to actually figure out that whether the respondent is the right respondent. Because if it's the agency's responsibility versus SF Open Data's responsibility, I don't know that SF Open Data can come back here and explain why a department did something. And can't really make the department do something.
No, they're responsible for completing it with quality. We try to support that as much as possible, but we can only play the police so much, right?
So, just so I understand correctly, the data is the responsibility of the department. You're just managing the data.
Yeah, it's their responsibility to complete it. Our responsibility is to essentially, it's a lot of work. We sort of send it all out, make sure everyone gets the instructions. We recompile it so it's in a single data set, and then publish it.
So if I'm a quasi-savvy user, digital user, would I be able to go here and pull public records from a planning department meeting in September of last year to get the information I'm looking for?
For the inventory or just for data in general?
For data.
If the department has published it on our website. Meeting our publishing standards. We require people to complete our metadata standard, which means they document our data, because otherwise it just leads to bad question loops, as well as they must commit to a level of service for updating the data. So we don't allow people to publish data without committing to an update cycle, because again, it just leads to endless cycles, and if they're not ready to publish it in what we call a reliable and sustainable manner, then people can always get that through a Sunshine request.
Right. Okay.
And, under the SB 272, the catalog shall be made publicly available upon request in the office of the person or officer designated by the agency's legislative body. And just who is that?
I guess in practice it's us right now, because it just didn't, since we were already managing the data inventory process, we got approached by several departments. Do you know who's doing this? And we're like, we just assumed we would be doing it because it made my hair stand on end to imagine like a whole separate process for a systems inventory when we essentially had it through the data inventory. So yeah, I guess I don't know that we've been designated, but we took it, we volunteered.
Fair enough. Well, I don't know that the legislative body has necessarily taken steps to designate someone anyways, so. I don't think I have any further questions. I would like a copy of the presentation.
Yeah, happy to send it. And was that useful to do? I didn't know. This is my first thing here, so.
Yeah, it was.
It was excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay.
All right, thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Before we move on to public comment, I was wondering, would you like to continue to call the chair, send it up for a report to the task force?
So I think it would be my preference that, again, we present this to this task force. But if there's, is there another update coming up? I'm sorry, you said there was a big update.
Yeah, so we update our inventory in the spring. I don't think we have decided exactly what day we'll start, but we do the annual inventory update, and so we'll include, it'll be a two-part. It'll be system and data set update.
So I think I would like to have another presentation once that update is completed.
To the full.
Do you think it needs to be the full task, or do you think here is fine?
No, I think here's cool.
Yeah, in this committee then.
Yes, please let me know when that is ready, and I will schedule a meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Member Moss, would you like to make a presentation at the full task force, or provide an update to the full task force?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay. Can I take that as a motion?
Yes.
Yes, so moved.
Is there
Second.
a second?
Second.
Public comment.
Public comment on this issue? Seeing no public comment. Public comment's closed.
On the motion, Member Hensy.
Aye.
Hensy, aye. Highland, absent. Member Moss.
Aye.
Moss, aye. Chair Kanada.
Aye.
Kanada, aye. The motion passes. Next on the agenda, item number 6, file number 16071, hearing on the status of the order of determination, complaint filed by Tom Borden against John Ram and the Planning Department for violating Administrative Code Section 67.21C and 67.27 by failing to provide assistance in identifying the existence, form, and nature of any record and failing to provide justification for withholding /redacting records. On October 5th, 2016, the task force heard and referred the matter to the Compliance Amendments Committee. It was requested that the respondent provide justification for the redaction and to provide justification for the redaction to the documents provided in response to the public records request. May I suggest bringing the respondent forward and see if they have a response?
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Borden is,
The respondent
the
would be the
respondent,
Planning
okay.
Department.
okay.
Good evening, committee members, Christine Silva, planning staff. At the October 5th hearing, my colleague Jonas Ionin acknowledged that we erroneously failed to inform the requester in the original email production that portions of the record were redacted and the justification for those redactions. In follow-up emails to the requester, we did provide justification for the redactions, citing Admin Code 67.24A, in which recommendations of the author in a preliminary draft are exempt from disclosure. Specifically, the author of the produced draft document is a consultant of ours, and the items that were redacted were opinions and suggestions from the consultant for consideration by staff. These recommendations were embedded in the body text of the document using brackets, which makes review for the document easier to identify and read. As such, at this time, we believe we've satisfied the request and provided the correct justification for redaction. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Yes, do you have those emails? I don't believe I received a copy of those.
They were in the original agenda packet contents list. Let's see. And also the memo that I sent originally on August 25th.
Okay, thank you.
Should we ask the complainant?
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Borden, is he? Yes, I'm here. Can you come up, please? So have you received the reasons why the redactions were made?
Well, Yes, exactly what Christine just said. That's what I heard, but to me, it was, well, two things. One, I think it was dubious. It looks like text was actually taken out of the document rather than redactions. Just the placement and the way sentences were cut off in the middle, things like that. And also, I have to say, maybe you can't answer this. This is a question, but why would, this is a paid consultant. We're paying them for this work product, and I don't really actually understand. I have to admit this. Only the recommendation of the author may, in such circumstances, be withheld as exempt. And I have no idea if the opinions of the author had been transmitted in an accompanying email, then you could sunshine it. But if it's embedded in the document, you can't get that by a sunshine request. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm confused actually about the text of the actual code, admin code on Sunshine, why the same piece of information embedded in a document would not be made available, whereas if it were in an accompanying email, it would have to be made available. It's very strange.
Victor, do you remember what the violation we found was?
It was for failing to provide assistance in identifying the existence and form and nature of any record, and failing to provide justification for the actual withholding.
Okay, so we did 6727. Did we do 6721C?
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
what the other one was?
Yes.
So, let's see.
I believe the only thing that we are that is before us today is the justification for withholding.
Through the chair? Yes. So are you saying that the redaction justifications they've given you, you disagree with them?
I'm saying yes. Well, I'm saying two things. One, I'm suspicious that all of the redacted, blacked out sections in the document were actually comments by author and not something else, because it seemed like text was like missing from the document where those redactions appeared. But more importantly, I'm just questioning whether this part of the code, this section 67.24A1, is being properly applied, because it doesn't make sense that comment by author would, if it's in a document, it's can't be sunshined, and if it's in an accompanying email, it can be sunshined, even though it's the same piece of information. It makes no sense.
Chair Kanata, so I'm trying to figure out whether, because we found 2 violations already, but none of the violations were whether, one was for failing to provide justifications.
Right.
And now we're in a position where justifications have been provided, but then there's the question of whether the justifications are.
See, I'm not.
Exactly.
And what I'm hearing is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Borden, that the justification provided is in the code, but that the code doesn't seem to be dealing with this type of situation correctly.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is that...
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't hear that Mr. Borden is saying that the planning department misused the justification rule, is that the justification rule itself is not doing what it's supposed to do.
Right.
Okay, and I don't think that's something we can litigate.
We can't really do that because it's.
We can have discussion and then make recommendation to the full
Right.
committee about the fact that there's questions on this portion of the code.
That was I'm not suggesting that we have a hearing on it here and now. What I'm suggesting is trying to figure out is whether this requires, or whether it could have another hearing, or whether another complaint would have to be filed, or whether we can recommend it for another hearing before the task force based on the redactions. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Right.
I think that ultimately, if it gets to another hearing, it's gonna say that we're gonna say that we wish there was something we could do, but the law is the law, and we wish the law was different, but it is what it is.
But we are,
Well, it's one of the letter of the law
right,
things.
right, but we are coming up with possible amendments to the Sunshine Ordinance.
Right.
And if we agree on this, we could bring this up for discussion. The difference between, if a third party had something in an email, it would be disclosable, but if it's in the body of a report, it's redactable.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm just trying to suss it out in my head because if somebody comes to us with a redacted document that has justifications and they're like, I don't think these justifications are appropriate, they could file a complaint with us about that. Could they not? And then we would have a discussion about whether
I believe the full task force did go through that process, and I believe Mr. Ionin did state that did provide the reason for redaction at that meeting.
Okay.
However, they wanted to provide written evidence of that fact, as that was not provided at that time.
And I think they could have a complaint if the department had an email and stated it was redactable, because then that would be obviously against the ordinance. But to have a complaint when the ordinance is actually being followed, I don't know if that, so it's a gray area.
And do we have the requested justification redactions? Like, I'm trying to find it in our packet.
Well, for this one, it's 6724A2, draft versions of an agreement.
Right.
Need not be disclosed immediately.
Okay.
Right, and one also has the last part of one.
I'm just trying to find the document, the letter from the planning department.
I don't know if that's in here, but they did mention 6724.
Is that what they mentioned, or have they provided it to us for
They
this
sent
year?
an email. Do we
No,
have?
they did provide an email that came back to me, and it also went to you that cited that this reason that they could redact those things.
Victor, am I totally lost here?
There's so many documents I can't
Let's
point
see.
out.
Is it
I
the
was
last
wondering,
one?
Ms. Silva, do you happen to have that printed page?
Yeah.
I might have.
Thank you.
So
Oh, is it the last one here? Is it page 66?
we did 2 emails to the requester, one on August 9th and then one again on August 12th. They were included as attachments to your memo received August 25th.
Okay.
They may be in this larger packet, though I haven't gone through to seek it out.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
So I think the only thing we can do, if we choose, is to have the full task force discuss 6724 with regards to third-party information being in a report or as an email.
Would that be a hearing?
At your discretion, yes. It would be separate from this complaint,
Right.
and it probably should be discussed probably with the Rules Committee eventually when they start to discuss potential changes to the Sunshine Ordinance.
So, okay. I'm trying to figure out what motion to make here.
Well, the motion is regarding the matter itself. If you believe that they have provided justification for the redaction, which it appears they have, you would find that the department has complied with the order of termination, And as a separate action or just suggestion, you can request that the Rules Committee take up the issue of the other issue, 67.24A, and its different situations.
Okay.
Do we need to make separate motions? Do we need to make
Yes,
separate
someone would
motions?
need to make that motion.
Separate
However,
motions?
Question is,
Separate motions or one?
the motion for the Rules Committee to hear the matter is not required. That's just something that the committee can do. The motion to find that the matter is, that they have complied with the order of determination, I would need a motion for that matter.
Yeah. I'll move that the planning department has complied with the order of determination in this matter.
I'll second that.
Public comment.
public comment on this issue? Seeing none, public comment is closed.
On that motion, Member Hinsey.
Aye.
Hinsey, aye. Highly excused. Member Moss.
Aye.
Moss, aye. Chair Kanata.
Aye.
Kanata, aye. The motion passes. The order of determination has been complied with, and the matter has been concluded. And I will note for the committee and the full task force the desire to discuss the additional issue on a future agenda.
Great, thank you.
Next on the agenda, item number 7, file number 16066, hearing on the status order determination, complaint filed by Ellen Sang against Tom Hugh, Daniel Laurie, and Lily Magis, Department of Building Inspection, for violating Administrative Code Section 67.21B and 67.25B for failing to respond to immediate disclosure requests in a timely and/or complete manner. On November 2nd, 2016, the task force heard and referred the matter to the committee. It was requested that Ms. Sang review the documents provided to her on October 28, 2016 and November 2nd, 2016, and provide a detailed list of specific documents that have not yet been provided and are within the scope of the request. The Compliance and Amendments Committee shall determine if the respondent has provided the documents requested by Ms. Sang and/or evaluate the respondent's position that they do not have the documents responsive to the request.
Okay.
There is a list of 11 items on this. My suggestion is that we go through these one at a time.
Okay, and where is that in the package?
I think that starts on
I have
page
additional copies here for your
93,
convenience.
but I will certainly take an extra copy.
Yeah.
There you go.
And here is Ms.
Thank you.
Does anybody else need a copy? Thank you. Okay, one moment, please.
And Ms. Zhang's response, did it come in after the DBI response?
Ms. Sang's response came in prior to DBI's response. Would you like to take my suggestion to take these matters one at a time?
Yeah, let's do that. We have 11 items. so
Yes,
Ms. Sang-
the first item, the original request was, my apologies, I just need to catch my spot. The job card, which should state that the areas were covered without an inspection, the date the areas covered were requested/ordered to be uncovered, the date of the final inspection if a final was ever performed, and the name of the inspector who performed the final inspection for electrical permit number 168038 for 767 North Point. Ms. Stang's additional response is in the email I provided to you.
Right.
And then I have DBI's 2 responses regarding this. They have provided the enclosed permit number 168038, which was signed by Franklin Fong on July 11th, 1997. Please note that Fong's notation, no certificate cover without inspection, appears to meet SF electrical code, and a new response regarding it. DBI has provided all responsive documents it has in its possession. We don't have any other responsive documents on this request.
So for number 1, sorry if I may. So for number 1, Ms. Sang says if issue here is if there are no such public records, respondents are required to provide a statement saying that they do not have these public records requested. I believe that has been fulfilled by the statement saying we do not have any other responsive documents to this request. So I think we can check that one off.
Well, if Ms. Sang agrees. So on item 1, Ms. Sang.
No, because the person's is not signed off, it's not final. There's no way indicated when you have a job card, if you have final, they have a place for final. That's established for a long time, and then they did not say that. They said so that's the document they have, but that's not the final. That's not the job card. I request job cards indicate as final. That's not indication. That's final. So they should have a responsible either provide the record or no, because.
Okay, I believe if you don't mind me interjecting.
Go ahead.
Ms. Magis.
Oh, she's here. That's good.
Is there a job card that responds to Ms. Sang's request?
No, what we provided is the documents that we have for this request.
And you're stating that you don't have anything, I believe, related to the final documentation?
Yeah, that's why in our response, it says we have provided enclosed permit number, which was signed by Franklin Fong. If you look at that, it says no certificate cover without inspection appears to meet SF electrical code. That's the document we have. We produced that. And as a follow-up, we don't have any other documents. The job card I want to note that she's referring to is a new type of job card that was probably being used within the last couple of years. What she's looking at is a 1997 inspection record, and if I'm not sure if you have what was produced previously, but I can show that. Oh, excuse me. And basically, I just stated in the email as to what was stated on this card. So this is what we have in our records to show what occurred during that inspection when the electrical inspection was conducted.
Okay. So,
I have something I want to say, if I may.
okay, Ms. Sang, so how is this response not adequate?
Okay, because in 2006.
Microphone, please.
So, 2016, the senior electrical inspector sent me an email and says that for this old permit, there's never have a final. So when there's no final, then you cannot say that there's a final. Inspector inspect things. If the cover is not final, and also they already indicated there's no certificate, that means it's not final. And then she says that there's a reason when, no, there's not reason. In the 66, they already have a job card, a building department and plumbing. So.
Okay, respondent, please.
So according to staff, a job card only pertains to building, electrical, and plumbing both have inspection records. Again, we've provided the document that was requested. What is the inspection record for the electrical that was conducted inspection, and that's what we've provided. There are no other additional documents to provide. Nothing else is responsive because we've already provided it.
Thank you.
I always think that all the inspection, if it's final, they indicate it's final, but that's not indicate it's final.
Mr. Member Moss.
So we're going to, I think.
May I just state that we are not here to make a determination of whether an item is final or not, or the procedures of DBI. All we're here to determine is whether or not the department has provided all documents that they have in their possession.
Yeah, so I believe we're going to come up time and time again throughout this session that the issue is for Ms. Sang is that something was not done, not that we're not. I think what Victor was saying is that we can't. We're not here to say whether they had done something properly or not. We're only here to say if they had records or not. And I think that what the complainant is getting to is that she thinks that nothing final was done, or there's missing permits or things like that, and we can't necessarily help with that. We can only help with whether there were records existed or not. I feel like number one is been fulfilled.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with number one.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Okay, let's go to number 2.
Next is the plumbing permit number issued about 19 years ago, 1996, 1997, job address 767 North Point Street, completed job card and final inspection date and inspector name and his signature. DBI responded on 10/28/2016. Based on plumbing permit records enclosed, we have the following information. Permit number 343178. Mike Mitchell finalized on 3/10/97. Permit number 358314. Baba Morez went to the site on 3/12 and again on 8/18/1997 and 8/20/1997 and requested fees be completed. Would be signed, sorry, I'm just reading. And permit number 358972, Baba Morris, finalized on 8/25/97, which is related to permit number 358314. DBI has provided all responsive documents it has in its possessions. We do not have any other responsive documents to this request.
So this sounds exactly like the last one, where in your response, Ms. Sang, on on November 8th, for this item, all you had, you say, if no such plumbing permit was issued, respondents are required to provide a statement. They do not have these records, and they have provided that statement.
Do they have a job card provided?
No, they provided a statement that says one does not exist.
Oh, pardon me, which one is not exist? I'm sorry.
They answered with, they gave permit numbers from March of 97, August of 97, and 2 in March and 3 in August of 97 with permit numbers, and they also provided a statement saying that's all they have. They have no other documentation. And that's what you, and that seems to be what you asked for.
The job card too, okay, you are saying that whatever they said that they don't have, and that they don't have.
Yes.
Regardless, is, okay, never mind.
There's no way for us to go back to 1997 and adjudicate you saying there's a job card and they're saying there's not.
Okay, so
Okay.
they said they don't have a job card, then what they have provided is what they have. Is that what you're telling me?
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah, to be clear, this number 2 is not a, well, I guess it is, I do see that on there now. Never mind, I tried.
Okay.
So,
I'm satisfied with
Yeah.
number 2.
I agree.
Number 3, please.
Item number 3, the record stating the name of the inspector who waived the minimum code, which required a minimum 3-inch roof gutter for 767 North Point. DBI responded, we do not have responsive records to your request of the inspector who waived the minimum code. New response, as previously stated, we do not have any responsive records. Basically, they don't have any records regarding the roof gutter.
It's not my question. I get the email from the inspector and says that he stated, the variance have been granted, and by field inspector and the chief at the time, the 2.5 inches gutter was granted.
Right,
That's for that reason I wanted to have a
but
document.
It says could have been. It doesn't say it was. So again, we're going from 97 also? The original?
That's correct, yeah.
So we're going back to 1997 when an inspector did not take an action. The current inspector said, yeah, maybe an action could have been taken, but if the department says they have no record of this, that's their answer. I mean, I don't know how.
So you said that that's their answer, they don't have record, is what you're
Correct.
saying? All right.
Number 4.
4, the job card stating the dates of inspection and purpose of each inspection, the name of the inspector who inspected the dormers, and signed his name on job cards regarding 767 North Point. DBI responded, in reviewing the permit documents enclosed, relating to dormers, building permit number 9615136, and several other permit numbers, were approved and provided a certificate of final completion by Marvin Ruiz. The department has stated they have no additional documents besides those permit numbers.
The respondent, please. Yes, a quick question.
You can use the other microphone. You don't have to move. Give me a moment. Okay.
Hello. Hi.
So did you say before that job cards were not used back in 96, 97?
So the job card is for building division. In this case, that's the building permit. The job cards and how it looks, based on what Ms. Sang was showing you, that could have been a new form of job card. A job card has always been used. The new form that she was showing is possibly been used within the last couple of years or probably a decade.
Okay, so the initial request here was for job cards, and you provided building permit documents.
So we previously provided to her the job cards when we responded the first time. The second time when we were here for the subcommittee, she requested, or she had stated that she couldn't read the names and the dates. And so we went back and we pulled out all the numbers and we confirmed who signed it. And that's the reason why it was just listed.
Okay, and in these all these permits here, they have, so Marvin Ruiz is the one who signed all of them?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So,
That the job card has been used, okay? That one, she says just a couple years, that was untrue, that was 2001, okay? But nonetheless, I just wanted to know what the job card, she said that if I would appreciate that he tell me the job card page or the document he produced indicated the job card were provided.
May I ask, is there a difference between job card and the permits?
So a job card, okay, so a permit is what an applicant fills out when they want to do work that requires a permit from the Department of Building Inspection. So they file it, it gets approved, it gets issued, they can start work. A job card is a result of that, which an inspector uses. So a job card is for building, inspection record is for electrical and plumbing, and when they go out to the site, they basically notate on a card or on a record document as to what they found and what they have inspected. Just very recently, we went electronic, and now they can do that on their cell phone.
okay, and did you say that you did provide the job card for this request?
Correct. And what we did the last time around was, instead of providing the actual job card, we did an inspection history so we could figure out the names. Because at issue was the name on the card.
Okay. And Ms. Chang, you said you did get that job card, but it was unreadable?
Correct.
Is that?
There was an issue at the very beginning when we went to the first subcommittee here. This is actually our second time that it was illegible. So we attempted to find out the names of the persons, and based on that, we were able to print out the building inspection history.
Okay, so Ms. Sang, a question. You did receive the job card that was illegible?
I will appreciate the job card, identify the job card, where it went, and the page number they provide.
My question is, the respondent said you received the job card that you thought was illegible. Is that true? For this item?
The job card, I don't know, there's a job card provided, but I don't know they are specified to that, what I requested, number 4. If they said they provide, I would appreciate
We're back.
Awesome.
About the job card, this is there's one inspector, Marvin Ruiz, but this is inspector, other inspectors. That's why I need the job card. If he can provide it, tell me when did he provided the page number, because that's other inspectors for the building. And then, yeah.
Lily Magis, DBI. On January, hold on, I'm sorry. In our initial response to Ms. Sang, we provided building permit records, emails dated on January 14 and January 20th. As a follow-up, we were told that the job cards that she received, again, were eligible, so we attempted to provide to her the names. Should she want us to provide the job cards, we will do so, but then I would hope that that doesn't raise another issue of not being responsive.
So
We've provided...
you provided the job card, so...
Yes, they
if
were
you-
thick in pages, and because we brought so many pages before Ms. Sang, she had accused us of not providing the adequate documents, and it was too much to review with the subcommittee. And so what they found at that hearing was that we cannot provide just any job cards. We need to be specific to her request.
Right.
So that's what we attempted to do when we responded again.
But when you responded again, you didn't provide the specific job card?
Because we had previously provided it, and therefore we had an inspection record. She wanted, again, the names. In order to get the names, we needed to do the inspection history.
Right, but just so I'm clear, when you say you previously provided it, it was in the original data provided where it was a lot of data and was hard to go through to find specific job cards, or did you provide the specific job cards?
We provided the specific job cards in January twice, and then when she asked in July, we provided it to her again, and that's where we were found to have been providing her too many documents, and we attempted to again respond to the issue of her not being able to read the names on the job cards. We can again produce the job cards, but we would need it to be specific. And I'm sorry, I actually didn't bring it with me because we were not asked to look at past productions of documents. We were asked to look at the documents as we provided them specifically for the requests. And she's actually commented on the job cards. One of them, dormers, I think she was saying one of them had notations on it about a friend or something. So.
Give me a moment. Okay.
Go ahead.
So it's specifically for dormers only, for this one, number 4. It's not for the whole thing, all the things. It's this dormer. The dormers, the inspections, actually, if they said that there's only building job card provider, I want to see there's no other electrical or plumbing job card or inspection record, then I would like to make it clear to me.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, the only thing missing in number 4 is a job card for dormers?
Yes.
So
One moment.
what she's specifically asking is for actually the scanned copy. The building inspection history document that you have in front of you, if you wanted to look at it, it's 014 at the bottom, which has an application number 9615136. Those have the names and the dates. So they serve similar to a job card, but this is just what's in the system. So it's a printout of what's in the system.
Okay, and what page is that on in our?
I'm sorry, 014.
I don't think that matches our numbering.
No.
That was under supporting doc number 4. Can I see your?
Yeah. It's part of the same, it was cut.
Oh,
I was looking through it.
Oh, it's at the bottom right-hand corner. You'll see a number that's 102816 saying 00014.
Yeah. That's P120.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's our page 120.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ms. Sang, do you have this document? And is this what you need?
I printed what they provide on the January the 6th. I received from Sunshine, and there's nothing they specify. It says number 4. I have a number 4 here. I don't have a job card at all. So yeah, that's for the dormer. So they says they said job card, and then they says that there's the only one person, Marvin Ruiz, signed. I know for a fact there's not Marvin Ruiz signed the job card. There's other inspectors. So I wanted to see if they said they provided. I would appreciate it. For so many months that we're looking for the document. Just tell me what is the number. They provided thousands. I mean, over 700. So now I really cannot find them.
I have her. Can I respond?
Please.
So in our response for January, we basically did not produce any new documents to not confuse the situation. We referred back to the documents that were produced previously. And if you look at actually moving to, if you could look for 019 on the bottom right hand. You were looking at 014 earlier. If you look at 019, there is a CFC, a Certificate of Final Completion, that is a result of an inspection that occurs at the site. In this case, the CFC states dormers, and it lists the permit numbers that are pertaining to that. So that, I would say, responds to the request. Ms. Sang has this document.
Ms. Sang, do you have this document, which is a certificate of final completion and occupancy for 767 North Point Street, specifically mentions horizontal addition, install new dormer at eastern portion of roof. It's signed off on by Marvin Ruiz on June 11, 1997.
This is the final certificate. I want a job card because that will indicate how was the inspection was done, and then who signed it, what day was it done. That's what I was looking for. There's a job card is different than final certificate.
May I ask, does any other documents exist?
If she wants the actual job card scanned into the system, those exist. But as I've said, the building inspection history that's a printout included in your packet reflects the job cards that she's speaking about. It has the information that she needs. The CFC states as to the permits pertaining to the CFC regarding dormers, and that would refer back to the inspection history. We can easily provide job cards if that is what Ms. Sang would like.
Let's provide, for item number 4, let's provide the job card.
For dormers.
For dormers,
Okay,
exactly.
specifically.
That's
Okay,
it.
we can do
Okay.
that.
Let's move on to item number 5.
Item number 5, the permit number to abate the violation. The flashing should not be installed over surface of dormer siding, and the job card showing the date of inspection and final inspection, name of the inspector. DBI's response: we reviewed our permits and complaint files for this address and have not located permit or complaint documents that would be responsive to the request. The department has stated they have no responsive documents. One second.
Go ahead, Ms. Sang.
This is the document I received, okay, was the letter, and saying that this is from the chief building inspector. He says the flashing is a violation. And then I was told repeatedly, they have all those records in a box, but this is for them to be lazy, just get them from the internet, which they did not. They are not always registered all the complaint or the permit or things in the system. So this one they already have it because the Sunshine actually required them to keep those maintained and preserve in professional and business manner of our document correspondence. This is definitely issued by the building department themselves, and it should they have them. They have them. It's not because they said they don't have. They do have it. So they put it in the box.
Oops, sorry, I thought you were done. Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. They do have it. They put it in the box, I was told, and then now they just wanted to be easy way, just get it from the internet. This should be provided and then should be have a record. That's why I'm saying thank you.
Ms. Magis?
As previously stated, we don't have any other documents responsive to this request.
Okay.
Are there any responses regarding the allegations that there are box documents that have not been reviewed?
No. As far as I know, we've requested all permits and complaint files and were produced to us. Again, that's going back to files that were produced to Ms. Sang in July when we were asked to focus our responses. We looked, and when I provided my responses in October, I looked for documents, and there was no documents that responded to this.
Again, Ms. Sang, there's no way for this body to go and look for documents. So let's move on to number 6.
So,
I believe,
may I make the clear understanding your statement? It's like they claim that they don't have it, then that's it. But even though you can see they do send letters, they should keep that in the record. I was told repeatedly they have a box of those correspondence letter. They just don't. But you said that that's okay.
We've already found violation. We're just trying to get you as much information as we can get you.
Okay.
Okay.
So if they said that now they don't have, and that's it, is that right? I mean, I just want to make it clear. I mean, I try to understand.
They have stated that there are no no records regarding this
They've stated
matter.
it numerous times. There's,
Okay.
okay. Number 6.
Records for final inspection for plumbing, electrical, and building, and the name of each inspector. DBI has provided a response. They have found 2 CFCs for the property, and they included the permit numbers and the building permits, and there's a long list of permit numbers listed. The newest response, DBI has provided all documents response it has in its possessions, and they don't have any additional documents besides the items listed.
So, Ms. Sang, there's a whole bunch of information that you were given on this item. What have you not received that?
Well, to me, it's just not clear. Where's the final inspection for the plumbing, electrical? I can see that they says that the building was a sign off, okay? I wasn't clear what the final inspection for the plumbing and what the final inspection for the electricals.
Okay,
So I can see that they said they provided 2 final inspection, final completion is not inspection, and then that's all they have. I just wondered, that's how much document they have provided is.
yeah, there's 4 permits approved by electrical inspectors and 4 approved by plumbing inspectors.
For electrical permit proof,
Yes, it's in, right,
what is it now?
93, 95, 97, 97.
So that's for the number 6.
Correct.
I printed out. So are you telling me there's a 4? I just wanted to get 4.
There's 4 permits for electrical that were provided, and they have the inspectors' names and the dates. And there's 4 for plumbing with the inspectors' names and the dates. And the electricals go from 93 to 97, and the plumbing go from 94, 1 from 94, and 3 of them from 97. And they say that's all they have.
So that's all they have.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Number 7?
7, record state what action CBI took regarding Ellis Sang complaints concerning 767 North Point. There are 2 responses from DBI on 10/28/2016. Formal complaints received by DBI are inputted into the complaint tracking system. Ms. Stang's inquiries are sent through email, were responded to in a timely manner via email and in person. They did provide all the emails received from Ms. Sang. I did provide those to her via disk and in printed format. And the emails were the response to this. The newest response, only formal complaints received by DBI are inputted into the complaint tracking system. Ms. Sang's inquiries sent through email were not considered formal complaints, but inquiries and questions regarding the particular property. As a result, only her formal complaints that required inspectors to conduct a site visit were formally inputted into the complaint tracking system. We do not have any additional records responsive to her concerns other than the emails already provided. At the request of the task force, we provided 772 emails that we pulled in response to Ms. Stang's request of documents detailing steps DBI took when we received an inquiry or request for information for 767 North Point. In addition, we have provided complaint files to Ms. Sang on March 4th, 2016, related to her formal complaint that was investigated by plumbing inspector staff. Please see documents on page 00780 of emails provided. Those emails were provided at the last meeting of the task force.
Okay.
Okay, the email provided, I believe, is in 2016, and there's many duplications. Some of them are 10 times duplication, but that's not the issue here. But the one we have in writing, and then they responded, they did not provide. So they says that the only emails, I don't know, is formal or informal. Any complaint to the DBI, you can by phone, you can in person, you can fax, you can. Those are all formals. Nothing informal about complaining about anything.
The respondent, please.
1 second. Okay.
Yes. Did you want me to?
What's the differentiation between a formal complaint and an email complaining?
So at issue was Ms. Sang's questions regarding certain decisions that DBI had made in the past for particular properties. Those are considered inquiries. A complaint is, my neighbor over here is doing work, you need to investigate, you need to go out. In this particular instance, she alleged there was some work happening at 767. I have a copy of the complaint packet that was provided to her actually on March 4th, and it actually contains the whole entire complaint data sheet that was provided to Ms. Sang when she requested it. This is a formal complaint that required our chief plumbing inspector, Steve Pinelli, to investigate the matter along with his district inspectors and I think also his senior inspector to go out to the site. That's what we consider a formal complaint.
Oh, give me 1 second. I had a question on my mind, but
Sure.
no, nothing. Sorry. Mr. Chairman, would you?
Yeah, Ms. Sang?
Yes, this is complaints happen in the past, not just 2016. I wanted to have the record because obviously the letter they sent it to me, and then it's not registered in anywhere. So I'm just asking you, when they have those email, I mean, they have the letter, it's more formal than email. So that why, I mean, they says that that's all they have, but I cannot see why the complaint in writing, in letters, is not, they're not providing. They just, those email, if you can look at, I mean, the one I have received email over many hundreds is in 2016, basically.
May I ask, when was this letter in question sent to you?
That's years ago, yes. That's not only
what year?
1996, and also that's the planning department. The zoning administrator sent it to the director of building department, and it's not
Thank you
even
very much.
Okay.
I would like to suggest that, and maybe the planning, DBI can confirm whether or not the records retention policy in regards to written documents, how long that is. Is it possible it was, would you maintain this type of email, or would you have destroyed it due to the records retention policy?
According to what I know, emails are only kept for up to 2 years.
May I see?
If it's a particular letter or record, the correspondence may have been kept, but I would not be able to confirm until I check in with staff. Is this in response to number 7 about emails, or is this in response to the, okay, whether or not it's in the system?
Sorry.
Are we, what does the?
I believe the question was that you provided all documents related to complaints to the complainant. However, she has a letter here regarding complaints that was not provided to her.
When we responded to Ms. Sang in our July response, we said that we provided all documents to her, but we would look at all emails pertaining to this year. She did not request for another time period. If that was the case, we could look for that. But as far as I know, emails are not retained beyond 2 years or dependent on a department's retention policy. In regards to any other correspondence, she has a copy of it. I'm not really sure what she's looking for.
Okay, so can we, for number 7, can the department check if they have emails
We
for
would
complaints?
not have emails
It's a
for
written letter.
that time period. For this particular letter, I guess if Ms. Sang already has the letter, what information is she looking for?
Well, okay,
One moment, please, one moment.
go ahead.
Okay.
In the letter, they specify that's a violation. They have to. They are required to obey those are the actions supposed should take. Okay. Now they completely erase those letters. I'm sure. I'm told by many of the DBI they have the box, have those letters, and the notice violations. I'm sorry. I mean, I really. Okay.
But we've been through the.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
The box. They say they don't have the information. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
So in number 8, we provided a snapshot of the complaints that are found in our system, which is a public version of the permit and complaint tracking system. If Ms. Sang wants to give me a copy of the letter, we can look further into it if there was a resulting permit number and or action taken by DBI staff. I think if I saw it on the side, it said something about suspension of permit. So there might have just been a suspension and they may have obtained another permit pertaining to it. But without a copy of it, I wouldn't be able to say. But we have provided all documents that we have.
Okay. And this was for item 7 or item 8 you just mentioned? Item 7, the one we were on.
Item 7. I was referring to item 8 because there's a request for a snapshot of complaints from our system, and she was asking for all complaints in our system.
Oh, okay.
I did not say that in the system. I said all the complaints. I don't know what the system means. I mean, only what they choose to put in the internet, or is this in somehow in somebody to draw in the box. Or what, I'm sorry, you don't use your box. The drawer or something. I don't know, but this is something evident. They do have those those letters.
Okay. So in regard to number 8, what's still missing? Ms. Sang. Number 8 is DBI respond, where is it here?
Records that DBI responded to my complaints regarding 767 North Point.
Yes, I showed Victor those letters. Those are regarding the violations, and then the action they required the violator to take. But I wanted to have a formal record and saying that that's what they do.
Okay. So
I think DBI has volunteered to review the letters and find out if any action was taken based on those letters.
but that has not been done yet.
No, the letter.
Sorry, they were not aware of those letters.
Okay, so DBI will research.
That one letter that she spoke of, or 2 letters, I guess.
Okay.
So if I can say, this seems to be a new request. This isn't necessarily pertaining to the emails that's being requested. What was asked was records of any follow-up that we did pertaining to any inquiries, any questions, or complaints. We explained the inquiries and questions were followed up on, and that's why we produced all those emails. Formal complaints are put into the system that requires our inspectors to go out there, and then records were produced.
How is this request different from that? You're saying you think it's a new request?
No, the letter, the 2 letters that are being requested, that requires us to review the process again that doesn't pertain to this email request.
I never asked for email request. I asked for those things. It's not just email. Those things is not. They're supposed to have. It's a surprise to me. It's like now all of a sudden it's creation of it.
They're going to look into those letters
Okay.
and provide data. Let's go to number 9.
Item 9, record showing that the time and date that DBI scheduled each meeting with Ellen Sang, the names of DBI staff who attended the meetings, what issues were discussed, and DBI's action. DBI has stated they have provided the emails as part of the package, the 700 emails, which were pulled in response to the request. Detailing steps DBI took, which when we received an inquiry or request for information regarding 767 North Point. The meeting information is embedded in the email files provided as they based on or evolved from meetings DBI staff had with Ms. Sang regarding her inquiries. DBI has provided all responsive documents it has in its possession, so we do not have a listing of all the meetings we've had with Ms. Sang. Therefore, we do not have any other responsive documents to this request. Basically, the only record they had regarding meetings were the emails.
Right. Okay, Ms. Sang, so what else would you look for?
Well, I just wanted to know, because the email basically is in 2016. This is the meetings prior to that. There seems no record in DBI at all. So
meetings dating back to 1997.
Not necessarily. Just before 2016, this is meetings. This, yes, just a couple years before, yes, that's meetings. I mean, when I say meeting, is we make an appointment to meet somebody in the DBI. Yes, that's not talking about 19 years ago, just a couple years ago. So those are things that it's important to me to have what they are accusing. They explained it to me in the meeting. I never heard them explain me to anything. So that's why the issues. What are they talking about?
Thank you.
Okay.
It sounds like they've provided everything they have. I mean,
So are there any emails that you have not provided?
Oh, sorry. I'm not used to this bouncing.
So for this number, when she asked for records detailing the dates in the meetings, we said we had no listing, but we would look at emails from the time period January until now, and that's the emails that we provided. I would have to ask that we do ask for timeframes when we look at emails because they are difficult to review. In addition to that, we pulled emails from January to July, and that produced 700 emails, and that was already difficult to review. So we produced what we said we would produce from January to July.
sounds fair to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next on the list.
Number 10.
A record stating what civil issues that Ellen Sang requested DBI to engage in between neighbors. The planning department has stated that they have, as part of the 700 emails provided, there was correspondence regarding the DBI's response to this question.
Okay.
Give me a second. Okay.
Yes, for over 700 emails, I would appreciate they can identify which email they're talking about or responding to number 10. And from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they just referred to the over 700 emails. Identify them.
I think if we take a look at the next one, it will resolve the issue for 11. What are the civil issues that DBI does not engage in between neighbors? I believe the response was also regarding the 700 emails, but I believe DBA has stated we do not have any documents outlining the civil issues DBI does not get involved with. It is if it is not a building code or a code enforcement issue that doesn't require our review, we do not get involved. As for this property, Ms. Tang has voiced issues that she has had with her neighbors. Since this does not pertain to a building code or code enforcement issue that doesn't require our review or action, it is a civil matter between two parties. And I believe the statement here is summarizing what would have been in the emails, that DBI does not get involved with civil matters between two parties.
Okay, so
I went through the 700 pages that we produced to Ms. Sang, and I found in numerous pages where it says there that we do not get involved in civil issues. And I actually have a copy in front of me of one of those that from actually, I don't know, it's like the first 10 pages of the emails. So I went through it just to see where it was there throughout the 700 pages. It was found more than like 15, 20 times. So Ms. Sang would have seen it.
Okay. So, Ms. Sang, if the issues don't involve DBI, they don't have records on it.
This is the notice of violations. The DBI issue is about the roof material from the neighbor to our property, and they issue violation. This is the DBI's issue. When they say that the 10 or 20 times, they must have duplicating the same thing. I would appreciate it if Sunshine requested not only identify them. I would appreciate that you ask them to identify that to me. As a senior, I went through, I just don't remember what they are asking. I mean, there's so many duplication, I cannot identify them myself.
They provided them.
Member Moss.
They provided them.
They provided what there is. I'm not necessarily certain I know what civil issues means, to tell you the truth. It seems very broad. Can you explain a little bit what you mean by...
No, it's not I said that. It's a DBI said that. They are not involved with the civil matter, but that's why I'm asking them what the civil matter you're talking about. It's not I brought up the subject. They do brought up the subject. The notice of violation specify about the roofing material and other issues, and I just wanted to know what are they talking about. They brought up the issue.
I feel like what we're talking about is this sounds like we're moving into new territory here. Like this is based off what they had said at a previous meeting.
What I think the issue here is DBI provided a ton of information, and Ms. Sang wants DBI to enumerate,
Further identify.
to identify those pieces of information in regards to all these items. That's what I'm hearing. My feeling on this is that all of these matters are closed except for number 4 and number 8.
Number 8, yeah.
And number 4, DBI is going to provide a job card. And number 8, DBI is going to do some research, and if there's any information regarding these 2 letters Ms. Sang has, they will provide their information.
I'm good with that.
And that's what I see.
I'm good with that.
I think we should make a motion on that.
Yep.
May I make a suggestion on that? Sorry to get too involved, but may I make a motion? Not make the motion. May I suggest a motion to find that the department has complied with the order of termination of the task force, and that it is requested that DBI provide a job card regarding the dormers, or question number 4, and to state in provision for providing that job card that they have no other additional documents besides what they have provided. That way there is an end to that. And the same for the letter, to provide a response and say there are no other documents related to that matter. And upon receipt of those, of confirmation that those have been sent to Ms. Sang, this matter will be closed and concluded.
So moved.
Second, yeah.
Public comment.
There is no public to comment. Public comment's closed.
On that motion, Member Hinsey.
Aye.
Hinsey, aye. Highland, excused. Member Moss.
Aye.
Moss, aye. Chair Kanata.
Aye.
Kanata, aye. The motion passes.
Thank you both.
Next on the agenda, item number 8, file number 16091, complaint filed by Michael Trellis against Director Leanne Pelham and Commissioners Paul Renee, Peter Keenan, and Quentin Kopp of the Ethics Commission, Sheriff Vicki Hennessy, and the City Attorney, Dennis Herrera, for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.15 and Section 67.21 by not allowing an opportunity for members of the public to directly address a policy body on items of interest to the public that are within the policy body's jurisdiction, abridging or prohibiting public criticism of the policy, procedure, programs, or services of the city, and by failing to respond to requests for public records in a timely and/or complete manner.
Chair Kanata, at this time, I would like to say that I filed a public records request, not knowing that there was a complaint before the committee, but I did file a public records request that was relevant to this, looking for information related to a meeting that Mr. Petralis had with the sheriff's office regarding this issue. I don't feel like I need to be recused for that reason, but I thought I would announce it. All it means is that I have more records. So.
Okay.
Would you like to ask if, Ms. Bloom, are you in the room?
Oh, I'm here, yes.
Does either party have an objection to?
No, I'm fine.
I just wanted to double check as a precaution.
Okay, that's fine. Do we need jurisdiction now?
We can decide that at the end of the hearing, not
Okay.
end of the hearing, but we can discuss the matter and determine if we.
Okay.
Member Moss requested that I queue up the video for this matter. Would you like to start with the video, or would you like to ask questions first?
No, let's start with the video.
Yeah, I watched the video and I was like, this is probably worth considering it rather than just talking about what.
Right. So, is that coming up here?
Yeah.
It will come up there. One
Okay.
moment, please.
So I was like, let's have a little AV. We'll have a little.
How do we get volume?
One moment. Just give me a second.
Okay, you just muted it. You just muted it. You muted it.
Let me.
And back it up.
Campaign signs to be displayed.
Can you go back?
To address a matter. San Francisco. Mr. Chairman, may I ask the gentleman for his name?
My name is Ray Hartz. I'm Director of San Francisco Open Government.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Michael Petrellis, and I'm here to address a matter I brought to your attention previously, and it has to do with a complaint I filed on February 25th of this year, 7 months ago. It was a complaint against the mayor because of...
We allow campaign signs to be displayed?
I don't think we should.
I agree.
Take that, put your campaign
sign down.
Campaign outside this hearing room. This hearing room is not a format.
Please stop the clock. I want my 30 seconds returned to me that you've taken up by interrupting me. And if you'd like to discuss signs in the meeting, I would like to see in writing the prohibition that prevents me from holding this sign. I want to see it in writing. Why you are telling me to put a sign down because I feel you are infringing upon my First Amendment rights. Can you produce in writing the prohibition that you say is the reason why I have to put my sign down? Yay or nay, can you produce it in writing?
Chair of the commission, I can make that ruling and ask you to put it down. Where's that in writing? And if you...
Where's that in writing?
If you aren't willing to put it down, then you can just step back. This room is not for political...
Why are you trying to infringe upon my First Amendment rights without producing in writing what you say are these rules?
Through the chair to the city attorney, is it legally allowable for a candidate for office to use his campaign material in testifying before the commission with a television audience of which he certainly has knowledge?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I mean, it does seem like campaigning is not within the scope of the Ethics Commission's jurisdiction, and so I think...
I suppose it's within our scope also to offer an opinion under the First Amendment on the merits or demerits of his candidacy. Mr. Chairman, I would like a written opinion that ought to be short on this kind of campaign advertising in a...
and I would like to point out, regardless of what my sign says, I want to see it in writing.
You, sir.
You have interrupted my public comment, sir, and I will not be cowed by this. I am holding a sign regardless of what it says. You claim you have a prohibition on holding these signs that you cannot produce it in writing. I'd like to hear what the city attorney has to say is in writing regarding a public comment speaker holding a sign regardless of what it says.
If you'd like a written opinion, I can provide one to you forthwith, but until that time, I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
Well, within a week or so before the next meeting. Go ahead with your comments.
Thank you. Please return my 30 seconds to me.
Make it clear that you are not politicking. And
I am not talking about my candidacy at all. If you would let me finish, I would complete my 3 minutes. Are we ready? I am here tonight to talk about a complaint I filed with the San Francisco Ethics Commission on February 25th against the mayor and Willie Brown. It pertained to, my complaint pertained to a October 1st meeting in 2015. I'm going to show the sign-in sheet from the mayor's office on the overhead. Can we please go to the overhead, please? As you see here, there was a meeting on October 1st. It was at the mayor's office. Among the attendees, the last person listed as an attendee is Willie Brown. And the column next to his name says his organization. He did not fill in the name of the organization or the entity that he was representing at this meeting with the mayor. Please come back to me on the camera. Other folks who were at this meeting include representatives from the East-West Bank. Now, the law says everyone attending meetings with the mayor has to sign it, print their name, and list the organization or entity they're representing. Willie Brown did not do that. That is the basis of the complaint I filed 7 months ago. All I have received from the Ethics Commission since this complaint was filed was an acknowledgement that you have received the complaint and you're checking it out. I'm here to ask you to direct the researchers at the Ethics Commission at 25 Van Ness Avenue to move on this complaint. I'm wondering how many other complaints have been filed along these same lines that are waiting for an investigation, but are not happening. It is not serving the public. It is not fulfilling your mission as the Ethics Commission to have a complainant wait 7 months. Now, I don't expect by the time we come to next month's meeting, or if it's happening, when we come back in a month or maybe in November, I don't expect that we're going to have a resolution to this. I've received no indication from the Ethics Commission that they're investigating. This kind of approach to processing a complaint is harming San Francisco transparency. Any other public comment?
Mr. Chair, if I could only comment that I've been aware of Mr. Petrellis the other times he's come, and the actual complaint he's been making has troubled me. He has compromised the effectiveness of his bringing forth this complaint with his cheap stunt of holding up a sign to elect him to the BART membership while attempting to give us this this complaint once again. So I think his sincerity in terms of this presentation and his effectiveness in terms of his presentation, you just wiped every bit of it out, sir.
I would like to respond and disagree with you. I have requested in writing your rules about signs, and you can't produce it. You have jeopardized your ethical standing. You are not going to demonize a member of the public and not expect a response.
I want to associate myself with Vice Chairman Keene's remarks in totality. And secondly, at the time the executive director reports, I want to ask a question about the list of pending investigations and complaints. I can't recall if this is one of them or not. There were a number of them.
Okay. Okay. So, who's here as the respondent?
I believe we only have one respondent here today from the Ethics Commission.
Okay.
Ms. Bloom?
I have just after watching that, I mean, I read the documents we had. After watching that, it seemed to me that the commissioners were interrupting without knowing the rules as to why they were interrupting. Because they asked, when the complainant requested the rule that you couldn't have a political sign, they asked the city attorney if there was any rules. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So why would, again, you're not a commissioner, you're not the one who interrupted, but why would a commissioner interrupt public comment when they weren't sure that they had any legal grounds to interrupt public comment?
There's nothing. First of all, my name is Jessica Bloom.
Okay,
Thank you
Jessica.
for hearing us today. I'm the Deputy Director over the San Francisco Ethics Commission, and I'm in charge of enforcement and legal affairs. I'm here today on behalf of the commissioners and Director Pelham. I know that the sheriff and the city attorney's office appear to not be present, but they did file some writings. To my knowledge, according to the city attorney's office, who I know is not always respected here, but The city attorney's office interprets the sunshine law to not prohibit commissioners from interrupting people during public comment. They're allowed to ask questions. They're allowed to interrupt in the case of Mr. Petrellis' sign in order to ask him to put the sign down. And presumably they would be allowed to follow up on that question to ask Mr. Petrellis to put the sign down, to respond to Mr. Petrellis' question of them, which was to produce a writing. They're within their rights under the Sunshine Ordinance to then ask the city attorney's office to assist them with that answer.
Okay, we'll come back. I'll see if I have any other questions.
I mean, it seems to me, the question for us isn't about the sign, it's about the interruption of, if I'm understanding correctly, that we're here to consider whether his public comment was interrupted, abridged. Those are some of the words that are used. I'm kind of looking through our relevant legal, but the question is whether a policy body shall not abridge or prohibit public criticism of the policy procedures, programs, or services of the city or of any other aspect of its proposal activities, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know that we're here to argue about what the policy is and whether there is a policy, because it doesn't seem like there was a policy at the time or there was conflicting policies at the time. I don't think that we're being asked, or we're actually just sending this on to the full task force with recommendations, or are we just sending it with
recommendations?
That's up to us.
We should be sending it forward to the task force with a recommendation.
With the recommendation.
And we should make sure that we have all the relevant information.
But we're not doing the normal hearing process through this.
No, we're not adjudicating anything.
So I agree that we're not. It doesn't matter, to me, it doesn't matter what was on the sign. To me, in my experiences, mostly with the Planning Commission, commissioners do ask people making public comment. Well, let me think about this. I've never seen it in general public comment, but I've been in planning commissions when you're on an issue, commissioners have asked the person commenting questions. They give them their full 3 minutes, but if they have questions, they will ask. But I don't know if I've ever seen it in general public comment. So
I don't think that you would have seen it in general public comment here had Mr. Petrellis not been holding the sign. The commissioners aren't in the general course of business of asking questions during general public comment unless they do feel like it's something merited, like Mr. Petrellis brought up. His complaint was about staff's length of time it was taking to get to his complaint. I have seen them in the 5 months I've been here ask questions for specific information related to their complaint so they can get a complete picture and then put it to us, to staff to follow up on. But regarding the 3 minutes of public comment, I don't think there's any doubt, there is no doubt that the commissioners interrupted Mr. Petrellis. They asked him questions, they asked the city attorney's office questions, and a dialogue, a exchange occurred among those people. But I think what the task force has to determine is whether or not Mr. Petrellis was deprived of his 3-minute public comment period. And I went through the video meticulously and documented that he did get his 3 full minutes. And then I didn't even count the part after his public comment period where Mr. Petrellis continued to talk to the commissioners about their, Commissioner Keene and Judge Kopp kept kind of going on about this, and Mr. Petrellis got up and responded to those to that discussion, and so he even had additional opportunity above and beyond the 3-minute public comment. So our position is that we didn't violate the Sunshine Ordinance or the Sunshine Ordinance as to 6715 because he got those three full minutes plus some.
Okay.
So one of the things that sort of jumps out at me. Maybe we should hear actually from Mr. Petrellis for a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, Mr. Petrellis, come and have.
I realize he hasn't had a chance to really speak yet. Other than
the video, which was great.
So did you get your 3 minutes?
Okay, I got my 3 minutes, but I had to fight for them. And what I see in the act does not give the commissioners the right to interrupt me. It also does not grant them permission to say that I cannot have my 3 minutes if I have a sign. There is nothing in the act that says the 3 minutes can be interrupted because you have a sign. And I filed this complaint because there is no uniform policy regarding public comment at the Board of Supervisors and all the various commissions. And it's really unfair to the public. And on other occasions, and you have a complaint coming to you from me. A complaint I filed against the police commission because I was naming the acting chief, and I was saying, Chief Tony Chaplin, I don't like X, Y, and Z about you. Susie Loftus stopped me and said that I'm not allowed to name any of the officers that I'm complaining about. So the First Amendment is being abridged. I am asking you to look at this complaint regarding the 3 minutes that I had to fight for at the Ethics Commission in the context of the commissioners have to wait until the end of the talk, until the end of the comments by the public person who's giving the public comment.
So one of the things that that did trouble me about this, that jumped out at me is when I was looking at actually the minutes for the hearing. And as you go through the minutes, and I can't really show you, but there's pretty good descriptions of things that happened when people came up and comment. But for Mr. Petrellis' public comment, it simply says, Michael Petrell stated he submitted a complaint in February 2016. And then the rest of the paragraph that would normally summarize what he's saying is all devoted to this back and forth. And then it gets a little bit into it more again. But it does show that within the minutes that his public comment was disrupted. I don't know if that rises to a violation, but I did find it interesting that it actually comes out that way in the minutes.
I would like to point out that if I send written public comment, I want it, you get 150 words, okay? You get the 150 words put into the minutes regardless of what you're saying, and there's a note before your statement that says inclusion of this comment is not an endorsement of what the person is saying. And in a sense, what happened when I was interrupted was my statement was being added to. Their comments were cutting up my public comment if it had been written. And it's just not right that they get to do this. And then, as you saw and heard, they couldn't produce anything in writing about the so-called prohibition on holding up a sign. And COP asked the city attorney guy to prepare that and bring it to the October meeting. They didn't do it. They didn't do. They did not produce the memo that COP asked for, and this gets to the second complaint you're going to hear after this one. Okay, so all around, I feel you guys have to look at how public comment was handled at that situation. Whether you agree with me or not, that I should get 3 minutes of uninterrupted public comment.
In the end, Mr. Petrellis, you did do your full public comment holding the sign. So you did, as you said, you did have a back and forth, a fight with it, but you did emerge with your rights intact, in that you had your 3 minutes with the sign.
Yeah, I also...
You didn't get escorted out by the police in the middle of your comment. None of that.
Oh, they were summoned. The deputies were summoned. I'm saying that I should not have had to fight for my 3 minutes like that. That I should be able to get up at the microphone and have my 3 minutes of public comment uninterrupted.
Was there a particular guideline that you were working off of for the size of your sign? I know I've seen some documents saying that a sign on a stick that's beneath like 11 inches or something like that is okay. Were you going by that with your sign?
Right.
Or did you just that was just happened to be the size of the sign you brought?
That sign I was holding up is the sign I was able to use at the SFMTA meeting with no problem. I was able to hold up that sign with no problem at the Health Commission, which are two commissions that are aired on TV. Absolutely no problem with it, okay? And yes, I did research. The Sheriff's Department has confirmed that, and the clerk of the board of the supervisors, you can hold up a sign, regardless of what it says, as long as it doesn't exceed 11 by 17.
Okay. There's a lot of complaints here against a lot of different agencies. So we've been discussing the complaint against ethics for 6715. Then there's a complaint against ethics for 6721 because the commissioner said they were going to produce a written document which has not been produced. Then there's a 6715 against the city attorney, which the city attorney is not running the meeting or having anything to do with public comment. There's a 6721 against the city attorney because at the meeting, the request was made, and the commissioners asked the city attorney to produce a document which wasn't produced. How does the sheriff get involved? Again, remind me. I read this.
So I had that interaction, shall we say, with the commissioners, but also I was holding the sign as there was another speaker. I was holding the sign as I was sitting in the seat. There's a woman who lost her son to gun violence, who's always at the police commission, who's always holding up a sign showing her son's face, saying, $25,000 reward for information about her son's killers. I want that same right to hold up a sign that is shown on the camera. So what happened at this meeting in September, I was holding up the sign as someone else was speaking. Quentin Kopp got all upset about it and said, call the sheriff's department. And I think it was 3, maybe 4 sheriff's deputies came into the hearing room.
Right, but how,
Can I just add to that, I'm so sorry, I can't let that go. It was not just because he had the sign up. He turned it around and it had some vulgarity on it. That is when the sheriff's deputies were called.
Okay, but regardless of all of that from both sides, this was after public comment, right? After your public comment?
Correct. So
there's the sheriff for 6715, you had already spoken. And for the rest of this, you, from what I saw here, you made a request for records on the 27th from the Sheriff's Department, and they responded on the 28th and 30th. Is that correct?
I'm a little bit fuzzy, to be honest with you, because it was months ago.
That's what's in our package.
Oh, okay, then yes.
Okay, so
if it's in your package, then yes.
So that then the complaints against the Sheriff's Department would have been resolved because they provided you with the information in the appropriate
thank you for jogging my memory. Vicki Hennessy, thank you, sent me what she had.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, yeah, okay. So I'm just trying to go through this so when it goes up to the full task force, we know exactly what we're talking about, right? So the Sheriff's Department can be taken out of this for now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The Sheriff's Department can be
Would you
taken
like
out.
to officially withdraw the sheriff from your complaint at this time?
Yes, on the record verbally state I'd like to withdraw the part of the complaint pertaining to the Sheriff's Department.
Okay. What else can we?
Should we take a look at the city attorney and?
Okay, so the city attorney for 6715 for disrupting public comment, right? Or from the looks of this, they were pulled into it by the commission, right? So I don't see a 6715 for the attorney. They're just doing their job. To me, they were just advising the commission and answering the question that, no, we don't have anything right now.
Okay.
All right?
I'll drop that part of my complaint pertaining to the city attorney.
For 6715?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we just continue on that thread with 6721
Well,
for the city attorney?
The city attorney was asked to produce a document.
But are we going
They would ask to draft a document.
Yeah, are we moving on to 6721, or are we? Because I figure we
Can
should do
Jessica
the open meeting part of the complaint before the public record point of the complaint. Is that a good way to deal with it? There's
It's
two in
your
one here,
discretion.
right?
Your discretion.
I was just trying to minimize, the complaints, but that's fine. So
what that leaves us with is, as far as 6715 goes, is a 6715 complaint against the Ethics Commission.
Correct.
Okay. So I think that closes out our 6715. We can come back and do a motion on that later. And we can move on to 6721, the public records issue.
So the public records issue, the way I see it, a request was made at the hearing to produce the law in writing that would prohibit a person making public comment from holding a sign.
And I believe the department said that they were not aware of any public records regarding that matter.
Right, the city attorney stated.
Yes.
Well, and then was it Commissioner Kopp asked the city attorney to draft.
Yes.
What's the legal term?
Opinion.
An opinion.
Guidance or something.
Judge Cobb asked the city attorney's office to draft like a memo or a policy about signage at public meetings.
Okay.
Specifically the Ethics Commission. And that request sort of blossomed into an effort by the city attorney's office now to produce a policy that will apply to all public meeting bodies, which would include even this task force.
Right.
And so they represented that they would be able to get it to us by the following commission meeting. They were not able to, and it is not yet done. So at this point, a public records request could be made to the city attorney's office for a draft of that policy, but the actual policy document is not in the hands of any other agencies, and the city attorney's office has not produced it to any of the other agencies, which would include the sheriff's office, the board of supervisors, and our office.
Okay, and remind me of the timeframes again. The original meeting was
September 19th.
And when was the following one was October?
October 26th.
So it's more than a month.
Oh, October 16th.
Okay, so
Okay, thanks.
it's
Yeah.
roughly a month that the city attorney was requested to produce this, and they didn't produce it. But if there's no public record, I'm just trying to get my head around this. If there's no public record,
Right, we have nothing to produce.
what's producible, right?
The city attorney's office has a draft to produce. Not that I'm suggesting anybody do that.
There are some protections for drafts.
The what?
There are protections for draft documents.
But so then there's this question of if there is nothing that exists, there's nothing to produce. However, I do see in our packet two different things. So I'm having trouble figuring out where they came from. So this welcome to San Francisco City Hall.
What page are you on?
So I think it appears more than once in here, but it starts on page 272.
You said 272?
Yeah, but I'm actually going to page 273. I just wanted you guys to start at 272 so you know what document I'm talking about.
I think I know what you're talking about. So
That was produced by the sheriff.
That was produced by the sheriff. So you did receive, so on 273, you'll see signs, tables, and exhibits, and that's where it says smaller cardboard signs no larger than 11 by 17 that can be carried by hand are allowed.
Right.
However, but it does say signs mounted on sticks and poles are now permitted in City Hall. So his sign did have a stick. But anyways, this is a relevant document to what he did. I mean, Mr. Petralis, is there like a timeline that you're not happy with them producing this to you for the sheriff's department? I mean, is the sheriff fine giving you this document? Does this satisfy your request?
Yes, I'm confused here as to what part of the complaint we're dealing with, because again, it's been months since I filed.
Sorry, the public records element of the complaint.
So I filed a request for documents about signage from the sheriff's department, and at the time I filed the complaint, I didn't have this in hand. Is that what I said?
Yeah. So as far as I know, the complaint against the sheriff's department has been withdrawn because they produced this in 2 days.
Oh, okay.
But
do you want to?
Yeah. He had this when he filed his complaint with the task force. It's just that he had asked the sheriff's office to produce it that night at the meeting, and they didn't have it on hand at that meeting. So they produced it a couple of days later.
Right.
That's why Mr. Nico got involved, because
Right. So it seems like the only 6721 here is for the request for the written rules of the Ethics Commission not allowing signs. And if there are no written rules, there's nothing to get.
Right, and without the written rules, you have the commissioners just acting like it's a courtroom or their law offices and saying you can't do this, you can't do that, and it's like, well, where's the written legal authority for it?
I mean, that may be an opinion to have, but I'm wondering how that relates to 6721 and how you believe whether you.
Okay, we're going to move this forward. Let's drop it.
All right. So
this is what we're here for. We're here in this committee to get through some of the confusion and get to the nut of it, so that we can argue it a little bit better before the full task force.
So Victor, I'm dropping that part.
6715 against ethics.
Ethics Commission.
Right. So. Have we heard enough? Do we want to make...
I think we have 6721 against the city attorney.
But if there's no 6721 against ethics, there can't be a 6721 against the city because there's nothing to get.
Should we just clarify with Mr. Petralis? We're dropping the 6721 across the board.
Correct. I'm dropping that.
All right.
So what remains is 67.15 regarding whether or not public comment is interruptible or not.
Right. So for me, I mean, are we voting or do we have the ability still to vote to recommend a violation or not?
Regarding 67.15.
We do that without going through the complaint process. It's just
you are going through the complaint process,
but we're not doing the 3 minutes or whatever.
No, we've had
this is a free-flowing format.
Just want to ensure.
Right. So I believe, and you can agree or disagree, that we've had enough input. We can discuss this now.
Okay.
And then.
All right. So.
Wait, call for public comment.
Okay. So.
You call it after we have
after our discussion, we'll see if there's any public comment.
So, if Mr. Petralis had at that point been escorted and not been able to make his comment, I would feel more comfortable considering making a motion for a violation. But since he did hold the sign and they didn't have a policy refusing him to have his sign, and he did it and he went through the whole thing, it's hard for me to make a motion on it. I definitely think this needs to go before the task force, but it's kind of hard to rule on when I'm not sure what the actual violation was, other than him having to have a yelling match to get there. Yeah. There's nothing that says that the city, that the Sunshine Ordinance doesn't say that you can't, there's nothing addressing that scenario in the Sunshine Ordinance.
I agree. Would you like to see if he has rebuttal before I make a motion?
Okay. Okay.
You can allow for that if you.
I will. I kind of feel the same way. I think it's an issue that the full task force needs to discuss. I think we have all the relevant information. Having been on the commenter side numerous times at the Planning Commission, I wouldn't feel great having to fight for my 3 minutes. I don't know if it's a violation, because he did get his 3 minutes. So I would be okay sending it up without a recommendation. So let's have, if you guys want to do a rebuttal of anything.
I suggest that you send it up with a recommendation to either not find a violation or to find a violation.
I'll make a motion. We'll see.
Okay.
After he does his.
Right. Anybody have?
I just had one more thing to say. So watching the video, I mean, because we're going to discuss this issue more during the next item, because it's a similar issue on the next item, is that the ethics commissioners in this case did not seem as upset about the fact that it was a sign as they were upset that it was campaigning on the stand. Yep. And I think that's important to note. I don't know if beyond noting that actually has any impact on the Sunshine Ordinance, but I think it is worth noting that they were not. The sign ordinance issue has now come out, but that doesn't seem to be what had actually triggered them.
Right. And I know there are specific rules about not campaigning around polling places on Election Day. You can't have your sign and things like that. So, yeah. Okay. So, do either of you have anything else to say before we come up with?
I just want to, I feel like because there's a record, I should briefly address the notion that Mr. Petraeus had to fight for 3 minutes. Staff is responsible for ensuring that each public commenter gets their 3 minutes. So there was never a moment, not one moment in the entirety of the exchange with Judge Kopp, the City Attorney's Office, or Commissioner Keene, that Mr. Petraeus was not going to get his 3 minutes. We had our finger on the button. We were making sure that he got his 3 minutes, and so that he didn't have to fight. And I don't like that he felt like he had to fight, but just for the record, it wasn't an actual fight. There were people ensuring that his rights were protected.
Okay. Mr. Petraeus.
I would like to say that I think there at some point needs to be consideration by the full task force that the commissioners in question, when complaints are filed, have to show up. I think it's really quite unfair that the staff has to come here and make these arguments and defend the behavior of the commissioners, regardless of what the commission is. And I'm just very glad that you, Dave, brought up, and Frank and Fiona, you've agreed that the content of the sign is not at issue here. It was at issue for them. And what I am really fighting for in the larger context is a uniform policy that allows every member of the public to hold up a sign that is no bigger than 11 by 17 at any meeting in City Hall. You heard Kopp talking about, can he hold up that sign on TV? Yeah. You know, as a taxpayer, I want the right to hold up a sign, regardless of what it says, on publicly funded television. And that's it.
Okay, I'll make a motion to forward this matter to the full task force with the recommendation of no violation of 67.15.
I'll second that.
With a finding of recommendation of defined jurisdiction.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yes, with the finding of recommendation of defined jurisdiction.
And I'll second the amended motion.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment? Seeing none, let's go to the vote.
On that motion, Member Hinsey.
Aye.
Hinsey, aye. Highly excused. Member Moss.
Aye.
Moss, aye. Chair Kanata.
Aye.
Kanata, aye. This matter will be forwarded to the full task force for hearing on February the 1st. All parties are requested to appear. Notice of hearing will be sent.
Was the motion for no violation or no jurisdiction?
No violation.
No violation.
Actually, the motion is to find jurisdiction and to find that there was no violation.
That was February 1st?
Yes. I will provide additional notice once the agenda is created, but it is the intention of the task force to hear it on February the 1st. It will probably be a little bit later on the agenda, but I'll try to create a special order so you can arrive at a specific time.
Okay, let's get to the next item.
A quick bathroom break, please. I'll run.
Okay, let's take 5.
Yeah. Like my surgery's on this.
Back on the record. The next item is item number 9, file number 16099, complaint filed by Michael Trellis against San Francisco Ethics Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.7A and 67.15 by failing to post an agenda containing a meaningful description of each item of business to be transacted or discussed at the meeting and failing to provide an opportunity for members of the public to directly address a policy body on items of interest to the public regarding the October 16, 2016 meeting. And would you like me to play the video?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay.
Oh, God.
If you haven't seen it, I think it's worth seeing.
I feel it's like the Golden Globes.
Golden Globes one day late.
Right.
I assume it's the October.
16.
There's only a 17th meeting.
Oh, well, there
Yes,
I am. Again, there's
16.
hard
October.
It must be mislabeled.
It says October 17th in here, in our documents.
Okay, that's yeah.
Somebody has it mislabeled, but it is the correct meeting showing.
Okay. Is there enough volume?
I have to switch mics.
No, it should say 17. I have it as
Monday,
17.
October 15th.
It is incorrect on my agenda then.
Oh, okay.
And I will call attendance. Commissioner Keene. Here. Commissioner Hayan. Here. Commissioner Chu.
Here.
Commissioner Kopp. Here. All right. All commissioners appear present and accounted for. And before I go to item 1, because of
Sorry, it's cut off on my screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
some incidents at the September meeting, I've asked the executive director to print in the notice of meeting a paragraph headed "Meeting Decorum." And it reads as follows. The Ethics Commission encourages and promotes integrity in government by education and example, and is committed to treating all staff, members of the public, and colleagues with courtesy, respect, objectivity, and fairness. Members of the public who attend commission meetings are also expected to behave responsibly and respectfully. Persons who engage in name-calling, shouting, interruption, or other distracting behavior may be asked to leave. The following behavior or activities are discouraged inside the hearing room: applause or vocal expression of support or opposition, eating or drinking, profanity, and physical aggression. In accord with the Board of Supervisors Rules of Order 1.3.1, signs, regardless of content or message, are strictly prohibited. This prohibition does not apply to clothing, which includes signage pinned to clothing, messages displayed on clothing, pins, hats, or buttons. If the chair is unable to obtain voluntary compliance, he may seek assistance from the Sheriff's Department on call. This provision supplements rules and policies adopted by City Hall, the Sheriff's Office, or the Board of Supervisors related to decorum, prohibited conduct or activities, noise, etc., and is not meant to be exclusive. This notice will appear on all future notices to interested persons of meetings of the Ethics Commission. I'll call now for any item number 2 for any comment, public comment on items on the agenda or not on the agenda. And over there, he's doing it. I know. And I would urge people, if your comments relate to item number 7, the Farrell matter, I would appreciate it if you would hold those until we get to that item, at which time we can discuss it. All right? Any public comment?
Any public comment on the meeting decorum you just read?
Anything?
You didn't answer my question. You just had an item on the agenda unscheduled about meeting decorum.
That was.
Are you taking public comment on meeting decorum?
I'm saying that was just reading from the notice, and I'm simply now asking for public comment. If you want to comment on the decorum, that's fine.
But that is not public comment item 2.
No,
okay.
No.
Okay.
And I would ask you to put the sign down, please. All right, you want me to ask the sheriff to come? All right, I will. Would you call for the sheriff? You've got a sign on your shirt, that should be enough.
I think what happens at this point is that
I'm disturbed directly that there is no.
So at this point, we can watch more, but what happens next, if I can summarize, and Mr. Petralis, tell me if I'm summarizing it correctly. Mr. Petralis, during public comment, as well as Mr. Hartz, who we all know very well, take the Ethics Commission to task over this new decorum policy during public comment. That's correct. Pretty much. And Mr. Petralis is wearing his jacket backwards in a fashion statement / campaign promotion. But he's not holding a sign at that point. He does have signage on the back of his jacket worn backwards. And then he does his public comment, and that's pretty much it. If you feel like we need to watch more of it, we can watch more of it, but I think that should be sufficient.
I lived it. It was plenty. I would just like to add that I've been reminded watching the tape that they've created a policy about meeting decorum. This is a major matter at the Ethics Commission, and they didn't schedule it on the agenda. They did not allow for public because they didn't have it as its own item. There was no public comment just on that item. So we had to combine our public comment about the meeting decorum and whatever else we wanted to speak about during general public comment into one 3-minute period of time. So it just all around, it really stinks what they did. And I wish to remind the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force that the commissioners include a retired judge, a law professor, and a downtown white shoe lawyer, shall we say, okay? These people should know the First Amendment. I believe that what they have promulgated behind closed doors and was presented as a fait accompli regarding meeting decorum infringes upon the First Amendment. But the complaint here before you, which I hope that you'll send along to the full task force, is about a substantive item was discussed, but it wasn't on the agenda.
Moss.
Hi. Yeah, could you approach? I'm sorry, I don't remember your name.
Jessica.
Oh, okay.
Jessica Bloom.
Jessica Bloom. All right, there we go. This section that was read at the beginning of the minutes, where did that come from?
It's just a reiteration of the policies that we learned about through Mr. Petralis's public records requests that exist. So the Board of Supervisors rule of orders, the City Hall rules, and then the Sheriff's Office.
So, but who drafted that language to read exactly as it appeared?
I did.
Okay, and was that actually formally adopted by the Ethics Commission?
It's a notification of rules that exist. It's not a new policy, so it's not something that was formally adopted or decided upon at the meeting.
Okay.
The last sentence says that it's an incorporation of rules that already exist, and it's not meant to be exhaustive.
Through the chair.
Mm-hmm.
What? No, this question, I'm not asking was it an item on your agenda, but was this policy printed somewhere on your agenda?
It was printed on the agenda. At the end of our agenda every month, we list a number of notifications that are just sort of standard agenda template language.
Right.
We added this to that standardized agenda language, which includes things like disability access rules and cell phone usage and those types of things.
Got it. Thank you.
Chair Rennie had no intention of discussing the matter among the commissioners. There was not going to be a vote. It wasn't something we were putting to the public for public comment because it wasn't something we were soliciting public comment on.
And I have the last part of your agenda up here. It's on page 330. All these other items here, materials available, electronic devices, disability access, language access, et cetera. Were they items that were discussed and approved by the commission? How did this part of the agenda come to be?
Most of the sections of the notification requirements are actually drafted by the city attorney's office. They are part of a template agenda that the city attorney's office provides to all of the boards and commissions so that they can include notifications of common rules that come up during board and commission meetings.
Okay.
I guess the question for me here for us is this do we consider this a substantive policy of the commission itself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to decide whether it was action taken, and that's the reason why I went through the law and the cases that exist on that subject.
I mean, to me, it doesn't seem like there was action taken on this item at the meeting, but the item itself sort of forces action to be taken, right? It's demanding a protocol on how people behave at the meeting. And I mean, the full commission has been down the path of what's substantive, what's not substantive, and the way that works is that the body that's meeting decides what's substantive, so that doesn't leave much leeway for discussion. But to me, it seems like putting in rules on how people who attend your meeting have to behave is a substantive piece of legislation, for lack of a better term.
So the Administrative Procedure Act would govern if a violation of that nature. It would not be an open meetings rule.
So are you, when you're asked that, are you asking that in regards to whether something was agendized correctly or not? You're trying to consider it substantive in terms of
I'm
for 6715A.
Right. I'm thinking that because of the effects on the public of this meeting decorum paragraph, that it should have been agendized, and that item should have had public comment just for that item.
So here's what I was thinking, though, that maybe this isn't a 6715A issue, but a 6715C issue. That this is a regulation that was added without it being properly adopted by the policy body.
Oh.
That the way that it's written and they've incorporated in there, they do have the power to do so, I think, if they deem that not holding signs and they want to adopt the Board of Supervisors policy, but to just throw in a policy without any discussion, without a vote, seems like that might be the problem there, as opposed to, I mean, I don't necessarily know that I feel like it's a problem for if I sat down at the beginning of a meeting and read out the entire agenda aloud document from beginning to end at the beginning of the meeting. I don't feel like that would be adding new items to it. But I do feel like this just came out of nowhere.
So 6715C doesn't actually require public comment either. So if the governing body wants to create rules about how it can conduct its proceedings, it doesn't require public comment. Those are just regulations.
But where would they discuss the creation of these rules?
Like the meeting decorum paragraph. Generally, the way that works is the chair puts it to the staff, and the staff creates them.
But wouldn't that policy have to be adopted by the commission?
Well, not necessarily. I'm not conceding that this meeting decorum paragraph, which is a notification of existing rules, falls into that section, but that's not necessarily how regulations governing conduct at a hearing would occur, because they're not substantively implementing their jurisdictional authority. It's not something that we don't have jurisdiction over how the Sunshine Ordinance works. So we're just implementing our version of how we're going to conduct meetings, if that makes sense.
When it says, with the language that was added to the document, to the form, says in accord with the Board of Supervisors Rules of Orders 1.31, it's not actually identifying anything that the Ethics Commission adopted.
Exactly.
Mr. Petrolis? Just curious, would you be open to adding or replacing 6715C to your complaint?
Yes, I would, Fiona.
Okay.
If that happens following your rules, we have to respond to that. That couldn't go to the task force. That's a new complaint that's being filed against the Ethics Commission, so we would have to have an opportunity to respond.
That would
Victor, would you? Yeah. Okay.
We do need to give them time to respond, as it was not previously stated.
Mm-hmm. But as I believe, if I'm looking at Mr. Petrolis' complaint, he doesn't cite a particular section of the Sunshine Ordinance. He just says that he wanted to complain.
No.
So
that
He's got 67.7A and 67.15.
on which? But so I'm looking at his actual complaint, which is on 309.
I mean, the issue is, like with regard to C, we do have regulations that address how much time. I mean, we do have those regulations, and this meeting decorum notice doesn't amend or change those regulations. Everybody still gets 3 minutes.
But those regulations don't appear in the commission bylaws.
No, they are in our bylaws.
This actual language.
The meeting decorum notification is not in our bylaws. We did not change our bylaws. That would have taken a vote by the commissioners, which would have been required as an agenda item.
Right, but where are the regulations that the Ethics Commission adopts?
They're in our bylaws. We've adopted bylaws, and in the bylaws, it requires every public commenter to have 3 minutes on each agenda item. It also requires us to go above and beyond the Sunshine Ordinance and give folks 3 minutes at the beginning, at the end for general public comment. And we also elected to give people 3 minutes before vote and after a vote when we go into closed session.
I mean, it sounds to me like this is like, an underground regulation, so to speak. Like this is something that was put onto the agenda document, read aloud, as if it was a bylaw without it being voted on by the policy body. So that's just really what concerns me, is that somebody can just write take any regulation and just jam it in there.
Yeah, and I'm also uncomfortable that it was done like this specifically because of the action of the prior meeting with Mr. Petrolis.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not comfortable with that, especially because of the reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, it should have been an agenda item, and it should have been up for discussion, up for vote by the commission, and allowed public comment.
So I think I take the opposite view. I think that after we were we were surprised by Mr. Petrellis's bringing of the sign. The commissioners felt very strongly one way about it, and Mr. Petrellis was able to unearth through public records requests all of these documents existing that apply to our meetings. So the chair asked us to tell the public about those documents that already existed by including a notification in our standardized agenda. We did not make this policy and we didn't vote on it because it already exists. We were just notifying the public. And Chair Rennie didn't even have to announce it as a courtesy to the public because he wanted them to know, hey, look, as a result of the exchange last month, we did research and we found all these policies that exist, including one statement from our own bylaws we didn't even know about. So we're going to put it in our agenda from now on so that the public knows at every single meeting, and I'm going to read it aloud to you now so that the people in this room know that we've done this new thing. It wasn't something that they created. It wasn't an action item that they took. They didn't discuss it, they didn't amend it or vote on it or elect to adopt it. They merely notified the public of something that existed. That makes it not an agenda item and more of a notification. And the California Public Records Act and the Brown Act speak to that exact scenario.
But the thing says, in accord with Board of Supervisors Rules of Order 1.31, signs regardless of content and message are strictly prohibited. But 1.31 says action is prohibited during Board of Supervisors meetings. And I guess it does say it's been handheld in the legislative chamber or in the committee room, but I think those are committees involving the Board of Supervisors, not just any committee. Like, I don't think that, I mean, we come up with our own, rules of decorum, I think, for this committee, do we not? Do we not have our own?
Like us, you're subject to the Board of Supervisors jurisdiction. The Board of Supervisors created you and can change everything that happens here, can take it away. The Board of Supervisors could take the Ethics Commission away. We view their governing order as dispositive in our meetings. I think that's a fair and reasonable interpretation of the landscape.
To clarify, you wrote this paragraph, right? You didn't take it from any template language or notification
right
that the city already has. Okay,
correct. I combined all of the different rules that apply because I wanted the public to have a comprehensive list for the next time Mr. Petrellis asked for something in writing for Judge Kopp wanting to put his sign away.
So, I mean, I think I'm prepared to move on this, but I just wanted to ask, like, I do want to flag this issue for the task force as a 67 1.5C issue, 0.15, but I'm not sure if you guys are interested in a 67 15A on top of that. Before I make the motion.
Yeah, so if we go to can we just send it up to the task force with 67.15?
Just in general? Do we need to be that specific?
I don't see, I mean, the task force will hear the issue, and at that point can determine, if it wants to be much more specific. Victor, is that?
You don't need to name specific subsections, but you would need to provide a reason you believe that there is a violation.
Okay.
And I'll note that you have to find that C only implements A and B, right? You notice that, right? So it has to be with regard to public comment time.
I mean, B does not involve anything related to time. It just says, but not limited to, including but not limited to, regulations and limiting the total amount of time.
Well, and everything in A and B.
Right.
So you have to, presumably, you have to determine that the meeting decorum paragraph fits into A and B somehow.
I mean, I would say it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, but it's not, I mean, we're not making a final decision here.
Right.
We're simply
Right.
sending it to the full task force to hash this out.
Okay, so
So I guess I will move to find a violation of 67.15 with a note to the full task force that we saw issues related to 67.15A and issues related to 67.15C related to the issue of meeting decorum section of the agenda. And as that was included in item 1 on the agenda.
Second.
I just want to clarify this. It was included as item 1, which
It was not. It was spoken and read aloud as part of item 1 on the agenda.
Okay.
But not separately agendized.
It wasn't really part of item 1 either. It was just a notification read aloud at the beginning of the meeting. So it wasn't a part of any. I mean, we are not sugarcoating anything.
Right.
It was not a part of the agenda at all. It was just something Chair Rennie read as like introductory remarks.
but did he call item 1 before he read it? I don't remember.
He did not. He read it aloud, then he called item 1, then he allowed public
Let me
comment.
just
Okay.
amend the motion to take
amend the
away,
motion.
to take out the language about item 1.
Because you'd spoken and then he went directly to item 2, so I don't even know that item 1 was called.
I think item 1 is kind of roll call.
Yeah, it's just a call to order.
I mean, so is there a nebulous period between item number 1 and item number 2? The netherworld
in a
of
way,
agenda items?
Just my general thoughts. Do you consider this to be an item that should have been on the agenda for discussion and adoption?
I think that's the way we were heading.
I do. I mean, I definitely do, but that's,
It would just be a new item, then. I don't think it would fit into any of the others. My understanding is you don't have to have public comment on call to order.
I believe it would go back to the agenda portion. It would be a separate code section. If that is your belief, it would be each. It would be under 67.7, I believe, under agendas, in which
7A.
each item of business needs to be listed on the agenda.
right.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
So,
Which is another one of Mr. Petrellis' complaints. That's
Right.
yeah.
So wait, I'm sorry. So the agenda, the first item was call to order and roll call. So the Ethics Commission's response to us says, in calling the Commission's October 17, 2016 meeting to order, Chair Wren took a moment to read aloud the new agenda item. So that's an agenda item number 1, I think. I mean, if that's the language they're using in their letter, that's an agenda. That's a first agenda.
Okay.
that would be a 67.7 violation then.
67 in that it didn't take public comment. Wait,
Or it's regarding not placing agenda action item on the agenda.
so is that in addition then, or?
I think you need to have the first violation before you can even look at the second one.
Right, I would agree. So 67.7 would say we didn't put something on the agenda we should have. And 67.15 says we didn't give public comment on the thing.
Something that should have been put on.
On the missing thing, right.
So you're agreeing that we should add another one?
I mean, I just want to I want to be able to make my complete argument against this because I believe this all falls under the Administrative Procedure Act.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure that we all have an interest in a correct record.
Right, so, okay,
Okay, so I will move to amend to include 67.7.
Yes, and that is, the motion is to find a violation 67.7, 67.7 and 67.15 for failure to place an item on the agenda and failure to take public comment on that potential action.
But then also, we were looking at issues related to the C issue. Like, we were only finding a violation for 67.15 broadly, but we did want to flag. I just want to make sure that if
And what is
I'm not there, the next task
yeah.
force.
What's the subject matter with C? What's the additional?
The issue was that this was a policy adopted that was put into effect without actually being properly adopted.
Policy not properly adopted.
Yes.
And with the motion to find jurisdiction. Also.
And I move to amend to move and find jurisdictions in there as well.
Okay.
Would you like to allow them rebuttal periods or final comments?
Well, any final comments, and then we'll go to public comment, then we'll have a vote.
My final comments are that it's very interesting. The meeting decorum says no interruptions from the public, but as you saw at the previous month's meeting, there were plenty of interruptions from the commissioners. I have to point that out. The second thing I want to say is that I know a lot of folks are nervous about Trump. I'm also nervous about Trump, but I have to say, after years of battles with various commissions and the Board of Soups and sheriff's deputies over signage, which comes down to First Amendment matters, I've seen how the First Amendment in San Francisco's City Hall can easily be infringed upon, trampled upon. So we better get our act together here. And I'm really hoping that the larger benefit that comes out of the discussion at the full task force is eventually the city attorney and the sheriff's department finally develop a uniform policy regarding public comment and signage that applies to every commission, every part of the Board of Soups that meets here. And as Vicki Hennessy promised Ray Hart and I in a meeting, she hasn't delivered on it. She wanted to create a binder that has these rules, uniform rules, in every meeting room so that her deputies have uniform guidance. And I'm mentioning all this so that you understand the larger context I'm going for here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Any public comment?
I don't understand each word, but I support his position. I think that our rights should be recognized. Thank you.
Any additional public comment? Seeing none, let's go to vote.
On that motion, Member Hinsey.
Aye.
Hinsey, aye. Highland, excuse. Member Moss.
Aye.
Moss, aye. Chair Kanata.
Aye.
Kanata, aye. The motion passes. This item will also be on the February 1st agenda of the task force. He can come up to the mic, just so we have it on the record. If you have any additional responses, you can provide it.
Oh, okay. There'll be an opportunity to respond.
We usually ask that we receive anything 5 days prior to the February 1st meeting.
Okay.
I haven't sent out any notices yet, but
Okay.
I intend to schedule this for February the 1st if possible.
Okay.
I have one quick question. Is there any authority in the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force rules that would give you the authority to compel the commissioners to show up?
As far as I know, we do not have subpoena powers at this time.
Thank you. Okay.
And the rules do state that they can send a knowledgeable representative.
Yeah, but we can request, but that's all we can do.
Next on the agenda, item number 10, announcements, comments, questions, future agenda items, and pending calendar by members of the committee.
On the meeting decorum thing, though, I did write it, so probably.
There being no additional items, next on the agenda is adjournment.
Do we need them?
Need a motion to
Move
adjourn?
to
There
adjourn.
being no further items on the agenda, the meeting is hereby adjourned.